to tell you something, though. You know, I just turned 42 last week. I do think my hair won't grow long anymore, Caissie.
Oh, interesting.
It stops.
Huh.
Right above my boobs. And all I ever want is mermaid hair, you know, like where you can cover your nipples with your hair. And also the nipples are, maybe it's also maybe my hair.
The maybe it's not my hair,
lower. Maybe it's my nipples
are
lower. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Of course.
Sorry you had to have that epiphany on a podcast.
What a fucking bummer for
Talk
me.
about clickbait headlines.
Okay. Hi. I sent these texts.
Hi, how are you?
Well, Caissie will tell you that the first 5 minutes of any podcast is me returning emails, just taking care of some light housekeeping and some business that I need to do today.
Take your time, do your thing.
Listen, and here's the thing. Today, I was like, we have a special guest. We have, you deserve respect. And
Not
I was
really.
Well, listen, I was entering into this planning to give it to you, and then just I got sidetracked with a thing, and then I had to do the text and send the screen grab of the proof of the whole thing. It's a lot being the parent of a teen, but here we are. Podcast has started.
Listen, if I needed respect in the entertainment industry, I would not still be doing this after 21 years. If I expected dignity and respect, do you think I would still be doing this?
That's a great point, and one that I also should consider for myself.
Here's what I will say. Can I interrupt, because we always just roll into the podcast. I think in a way you did give our special co-host today, comedian Chris Gethard, respect.
Thank you.
Because before we even started the podcast, as you were doing your emails, you asked his parental advice on the email you were sending, and that's a type of respect.
Correct.
It's not like, it's not show business. Here's your VIP green room and cheese tray respect. But it's like, you're a smart guy. You would be smart about this parental thing I'm handling. How would you handle this? It's a type of respect. And even knowing more valuable than cheese.
And even knowing what I do, that Chris only has been a parent since 2019. I still was like, what do you guys think I should say? I don't know if I nailed the tone, Caissie. I might have sounded too angry, but we'll see.
Way out of my depth. You did seem pissed. I get why. But I'll also say this.
I'm not pleased about it, I would also say hate it.
We've all done enough things where you get on with someone who you're just meeting and it's like, oh my God, how are you? This and that. And we all know what those things are. But then to go, hey, I got this shit I got to deal with at school. Give me a minute. You know what that is?
Yeah.
That's a real human being in a real human being moment. It goes a lot further than the cheese tray, so to speak. So let's keep that in mind too.
Okay.
Keep that in mind too.
All right. You know what? I'm really doing my best, guys. I'm living up to the name of the pod. Busy Phillips is doing her best. It's me. It's Busy Phillips. You heard Caissie St.Onge being professional and introducing our guest, Chris Gethard.
Gethard. Gethard plagued me. Gethard did plague me for many years, as you would imagine.
Gethard is how it's spelled. Gethard.
It is. Gethard. Yeah, Gethard.
Okay, Gethard.
I'm not sure why no one in my family's ever changed it, but we haven't.
I always thought, seeing your name over the many past 20 years, I always thought it was Gethard, or Get. I always did think that was a hard T.
Yeah.
Always thought it.
Many people do. Nope. Real soft TH sound in the middle there. And many a bully starting around 5th, 6th grade sunk their teeth into that one.
It's hard. My name is Busy. I got a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, I bet.
You guys, most recently, I was moderating this panel at the Tribeca Film Festival for Tina Fey and Robert Carlock and Meredith Scardino and Jeff Richmond, the executive producers of Girls 5 Eva. And it was like about television and their company and about the show and blah, 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 blah. And then afterwards, we had this little dinner. It was a very small dinner. And it was at I'm new to New York, Chris. I just moved here in September. The Greenwich. It was at the Greenwich hotel. And who is there in the corner but Mr. Robert De Niro himself?
Wow.
You know.
Welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York. As Taylor Swift said, they've been waiting for me. Anyway, so we were with some of the people that run the Tribeca Film Festival. And so Mr. De Niro stopped by the table to say hello. And then I was introduced to him and he was like, "Are you busy? And then I was like, I can't believe he just fucking did it. Like, it's the thing that I've been getting my whole life. And I wanted to be like, "Oh, Dad, like, don't do that. Like, Grandpa." But I didn't because it was Robert De Niro and it was really exciting. And then he immediately like caught himself and was like, "That is, you've gotten that your whole life. This is."
He did. He saved
yeah,
it.
he did. He saved it. And I was like, "I know, but I've never gotten it from Robert De Niro. Thank you." And then it was nice. And he just like, put, had his little jaunty cap on and left. But anyway, Chris Gethard, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're
Lucky
welcome.
to be here. I just left New York. I just left New York last year after 16 years.
Oh, wait, you guys moved? You're out?
I'm in New Jersey now. So I'm still in the New York. In terms of entertainment, I'm still a New Yorker as far
The
as where I do my
tri-state area.
Yes, as far as where I do my shows. But I moved out to the woods. Woods.
Because the pandemic.
No, we bought our house before the pandemic.
A wild story.
Well, we had a baby and I was pretty burnt, if I'm being honest. Like, I've been working at a pretty relentless pace in New York for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of killing me. And, that the city is like the best, most beautiful place. We lived in Jackson Heights, Queens, which is like, I can't imagine a more amazing neighborhood to live in my life.
Vibrant.
And like every kind of food, every type of person, all the things you want out of New York. But then also, like, I, saw a subway masturbator at 2 PM on the F train one day.
No.
I was once carrying my stroller down the subway steps and a woman pushed me because she was in a rush. Like grabbed the stroller and pushed me up against the railing while I was like struggling here. I was going, I have to really think about, I am not someone of the means to raise a kid comfortably in New York City. So I think I got to go someplace that's a little more chill because I can't stay above the fray, and I'm starting to really feel like I am in the fray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we lived in Park Slope in Brooklyn, and after 9/11, we were trying to decide, like everyone was, are we going to stay? Are we going to go? Are we going to sell our place in Brooklyn? And there were like, for once in our lives, the pros and cons lists were pretty even. And then I was at work and my husband had our son and I was pregnant. My husband had our older son in the park, and he texted me, "I am texting you from under a park bench. A gunman just chased another gunman through the park." So we are moving out of New York City. And I was like, yeah, that feels like a sign. That feels like
Listen, sometimes a city gives you a fucking sign.
Yeah.
And you got to take it. That's what happened to me in LA. You know that, Caissie.
Yeah. You
Our
gotta
listeners
take
at
it.
home don't know the full sign. And you may, until I write
What
another
a
book,
tease.
guys.
What a
I know, but you know
tease.
what? I can't get into it. Although
A couple
one
signs.
thing I wanted to, well, I had a few signs, but then it was like very clear that I was to get the fuck out of there. And then we did, and all this like amazing stuff happened when we got to New York, and it just felt like, well, we're here. We're meant to be here. We're just going to do it. But ours was more 2020 driven than anything else, I would say, our exodus.
I know I'm into having a toddler, which you guys having been parents, it's like everything that New York offers kind of gets cut off at the knees when you're raising a toddler. Because it's like this idea of like the idea of like, oh, you might just randomly run into a friend and spend a couple hours with them that you didn't expect. Or like you might just get a text and be like, fuck it, I'll jump on the subway and meet up with you right now. Or like, hey, I just finished doing shows, but maybe we should there's a late movie. Let's just like me and a bunch of other like all of those things that are pure magic about New York, where it's like you legitimately don't know how the days are going to end, and you might wind up seeing someone you haven't seen in a long time, or going and doing something that you never would have knew existed 8 hours earlier. Like that's just not feasible when you're raising a toddler. It's just not.
And can I tell you something? I mean, you have to be, I think, just insane or super, super rich to have babies and toddlers and small children in this city. It is, to me, I see people with the strollers and I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. It seems bonkers to me.
It's a lot.
It seems like just so much. LA was like magic. Everybody has a yard and all your shit is in your car and all it's so easy. And even then it's almost impossible. You know what I mean? Like having kids, whatever. So my point being, our kids are at very different stages in their lives now. They're like preteen, teen. And what this city has afforded them in terms of like exactly the stuff you're talking about.
Magic.
As an adult, magic. Like for my kid to feel the freedom of being able to walk to the bodega with their friends and get snacks and maybe like, you know, see a guy masturbating. I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, that'll be a memory that lasts forever.
Anyway, I think it's like, I'll be curious when your kid I'll be curious in 10 years how you feel.
Well, my wife's an artist too, so I go back and forth for stand-up shows a lot now. My wife is, you know, of the Broadway world and from the music world, so I think she's going to go back a lot. But for now, we just need to get this kid kind of up and running and in a life. I mean, when I was on the F train, I remember, and I've been working on a joke about it, but it's very, very true. Which this guy got on and he sat down and he started playing with himself over his sweatpants, but like going for it.
Yeah.
And we all just saw it. Like you saw, there were like 25 people on the car, 30 people. We all saw it. And I was like, all right, dude. And no one said anything. And I was just like, it's fair to say, like, that is where the bar is set in New York. Like, if you're going to keep it in your pants, just, all right, I'll wait till my stop. Like, just don't actually take it out. Like, please. Like, and my son wasn't with me on that. But I remember so distinctly realizing, like, if my son was with me, like, that's the other thing, too. You realize that raising a toddler in New York, so many situations where I'm like, oh, I can no longer just walk away. Like, I can't just like wait until we get to Herald Square and then sprint up to the next car. Like, if I had my kid with me, I legitimately might have to like fight a maniac now. I might have to kill a person. And you sit there and you go, and you're totally okay with that. Let's also be clear too, as a New Yorker, you're like, oh, at that point, my son was probably 6 months old. I'm like, yeah, if my 6-month-old was with me and this guy got up and started coming toward us, I guess I'd have to kill this guy. And you go, oh, I can't. That's not how you live. It's not how you live. Constantly thinking about killing and surviving. Maybe
it really makes you realize how vulnerable you are, especially like getting up and down the subway stairs, because there didn't used to be elevators, you know, which is horrible for disabled people, also horrible for moms with strollers. And it really will often bring out the very kind side of New Yorkers, but a big muscly guy will very often come up to a mom and say, let me get that, and just fully take your stroller from you and, just chug up the stairs with it. And you're like, well, if he wanted to just run away with my baby, he totally could. But you just let them because you're like, yeah, I don't want to. I'll say this. If you have a light baby in New York, you can maybe make it if your baby weighs like under 8 pounds, maybe. But if you I had heavy babies and you cannot fucking make it in New York City. If you have a hefty children. Baby, fuck that. No way. And then I tried to like carry my older son on the front carrier, and he oh my God, I cannot tell you how many people's trench coat belts he would chew on the subway. Like I would always just look up and he would be like chewing some financial analyst's Burberry trench coat belt. And I would just have to like,
here's one thing I do want to say. Cricket, who's 8 this week, turns 8 this week, my little one. Still, I will turn around, like at Disney, we just went to Disney World. We took the kids to Disney World. And like, I will turn around and Cricket will be like licking a post or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, why is that chain like that's holding the crowd back in your mouth. Like, why? What is happening? You know, like that part is still worrisome to me, especially with Cricket, because I do feel like she just like absentmindedly just like puts her dirty little fingers in her mouth constantly. I don't know. But wait, guys, I want to talk about Disney World.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Because that's what I did, Chris. I took my kids to Disney World. I
I
know
went
you
recently
stand
as well.
on
I love it.
You did?
Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Chris, I love that you love it. I wouldn't, from your stand-up and stuff, would not expect that you are a person who's into Disney World.
Yeah, I think Disney's pretty great. My mom is one of those people who has become like Disney obsessed in her old age. Like we visit them and they moved to Florida to retire. They're in the Orlando area. Like their silverware has like Minnie Mouse cutouts at the ends of every fork. Like my mom's a Disney person. They have annual
Oh my God,
passes.
I love your mom.
Yeah, I love my mom too. She's the best.
That's nice to hear as a mom and a person who hopes someday my children won't blame me for everything, although I'm very much prepared for that eventuality. So, Caissie, where do you stand on Disney? Are you in? You're out? I know you did the Disney cruise when the boys were little, and that was very important and a good time for you
That
guys.
was actually a Nickelodeon cruise. That was
never mind.
Yeah, a Nick cruise. My mom is also a Disney lover. I did a lot of the TV shows that I worked on. Did the show like a week of shows from Disney, so I got that like super deluxe like Disney experience where you have like basically a concierge that puts you right on the ride, and
Let's
you don't
be
have
real.
to wait.
That's how I did it too, guys. We're just going to be
Not
out
me.
in the open here about how
waited on
I
lines.
managed to do it.
So the first couple times my family went as like adults, that's the experience that we had. And then we went like the regular way, and my kid was like, "What? Like this is not great." Wait, did I ever tell you about the Tower of Terror? About when I worked at Rosie, we had you get right on the ride. You have like an ambassador, basically like a Disney ambassador puts you right on the ride, and you
Disney
get to
guide.
Go, a Disney guide. You get to go a million times on whatever ride you want to go on, and you have a great time. Then we went as a family. My older son, Eli, I don't know how old he was, like maybe 8 years old. And we went to MGM Studios. Is that where Tower of Terror is?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they changed it to Hollywood Studios now.
Hollywood
It's called
Studios.
Hollywood
Okay.
Studios. Mhm.
And that he really wanted to go on the Tower of Terror, and it was out of commission. It was like temporarily closed. And so he kept going to check if it was open. Is it open? Is it open? And the guy out front kept saying, "No, it's not open. It's not open." So finally he was like, "What's happening? Like, this is the whole reason, like, I wanted to come here. What's happening? Like, when can I go on the Tower of Terror?" And the guy was like, "Listen, I'm not even really supposed to say anything, but I think like a girl had an aneurysm on it or something." And
Oh my God.
and my son goes, "Well, I'm going to have an aneurysm if I can't go on it." and then the guy was like, "Okay, I'll contact you when you can come back when it's open again."
Wait, that's wild. I love it. Okay, so I got hooked up with the guide. Disney has always been very nice to me. I've always loved them and like posted about them before they gave me anything for free. But I had like, I'm just saying, because that guide is, guys, if you have to pay for it, it is prohibitively expensive. It is so insanely expensive. But they said like they would make a deal with me. You know, they know that I'm going to Instagram about it. You know what I mean? Like, and then also I did like a little video thing for them because it's their 50th anniversary coming up. It's the parks are turning 50. So I like, the first day we were there before Epcot opened, I went into Epcot and there was like the Disney press team, and I did a little video, which apparently Shailene Woodley and Aaron Rodgers had just done as well.
Ooh.
In exchange.
All
So
right.
guys, this is what I'm saying to you is that like, I know that people are like, rich people get all the free shit. And that is true. But also sometimes they ask you to do stuff in return, and I was happy to do it.
All right.
Is that relatable? No. Anyway, the point being this.
It's not relatable.
At all. I get it.
Yeah.
But listen, we got it all hooked up, and I did my little bit, and then we were good. Guys, if you know anything about me, you know that I love having my nails done. I love a fresh coat of polish on these little fingernails and on my toenails. And then, when the first lockdown happened, I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And this is a true story. Olive and June, which is an amazing manicure, pedicure salon in Los Angeles, came out with these kits, the Mani system. And oh my God, it is the best manicure, do-it-yourself at home, salon perfect nails every time. Each at-home mani comes out to like basically $2,
Right.
Which is a lot less than going into a salon. And most of the time, DIY manis, look like a 5-year-old painted your nails, right? They have come up with a system.
Well,
I
yes.
don't even know how to explain it to you. You have to get it. It's like that little cap thing.
Yes.
Sorry,
Here's
go
what
ahead,
I want.
Caissie.
No, I just want to say using the Olive and June Mani system is so amazing because it's a woman-owned company, and the company was so thoughtful when they were inventing this Mani system in like how it works when you're trying to paint your own nails. So there's a special silicone attachment that goes on the top of the nail polish cap.
Right. It's like a little brush handle.
Yeah, that makes it like very easy to steady your hand and to hold on to. And the brush is flat and perfectly works to paint your nails. And
the nail polish is such good quality and such good colors.
And it like settles onto your nail perfectly like glass. And then the manicure lasts I've had my nails painted for like 10 days. No chips.
Anyway, guys, we're obsessed. You have to try it. The Olive and June Mani system. It's the secret for salon perfect nails at home, all in one, no guessing, no messy nails. And I mean, no salon price tag. It's a lot cheaper. You can now get it even cheaper. You can get it 20% off your first Mani system with our code BEST, BEST. So get 20% off your first Mani system when you use the promo code BEST at oliveandjune.com. Olive and June, OLIVEANDJUNE.com, and use our code BEST to get 20% off of your first Mani system. You're going to love it. The colors are so cute. Sakara life. Sakara life. What do you think?
I think that was good. That was very gentle.
It felt gentle because you know what is gentle on my digestive system? A Sakara life reset.
Yes.
That was honestly, I feel like that seg was worth everything.
Yeah.
Guys, we've talked about this before. It is I will say this. I will just say this. There are very, 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 very few and far between things that we advertise on this show that one of us has not used personally IRL before they even became a sponsor on the show. Sakara is a nutrition company. It focuses on overall wellness, starting with what you eat. I have been a Sakara subscriber, I guess. I don't know. What do you call it? A user? No.
Yeah.
A Sakara
customer, client,
customer,
lover.
Oh my God, customer. Customer, client, and lover are 3 words that are better than the 4 I came up with. But I have been a Sakara customer for years. They have organic, ready-to-eat meals that are made with powerful plant-based ingredients and are designed to boost your energy and improve your digestion and get your skin glowing. I love doing it. before I have like a big photo shoot because I know my skin's going to look great. I'm going to feel great. My IBS will not be flaring up because they have a menu of creative, chef-crafted, ready-to-eat breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. It's like giving you more of what your body needs, more of what's good for you. It's not restrictive. It's the idea that like your nourished body is your best body. Along with delicious plant-rich meals, they offer daily wellness essentials, supplements, herbal teas to support your nutrition. You know, Sakara has received rave reviews from everyone. Don't listen to me. Listen to Vogue, Goop, the New York Times, and more. And right now, Sakara is offering our listeners 20% off their first order when they go to sakara.com/busy or enter code BUSY at checkout. That's Sakara. It's spelled SAKARA.com/busy to get 20% off your first order. Sakara.com/busy. We had a great time. It was super fun. And it was real insanely hot. But on the way there, Caissie, I don't know if you saw this. Like our plane, which I was like, for the first time ever, I'm so close to Florida. I live in New York now. Florida's always been like impossible to get to from the West Coast. Like I could never, you have to like stop and Dallas. I don't even know. So close to Florida. Well, first of all, something happened and the traffic getting into the tunnel, whatever. We were running so late. We were flying JetBlue. And then we made it and they were so great. And they're like, yay, you can go, get on the plane. Walked on the plane, sat down, and then it was like doors closing, basically. We're so excited that we made our flight. And then we were just like sitting there on the runway. And then the pilot came on. Actually, I want to say this. I was traveling with just Birdie and Cricket because Mark had done the wildest, kindest thing ever, which was that Birdie's longtime best friend, B, was supposed to come with us with her mom from LA. And the kids haven't seen each other for a year. And even then they like saw each other only very briefly a year ago. It's really since the first shutdown, those kids like haven't seen each other. And just like, it's been a lot, it's been really hard for all of these kids during this. I don't have to tell anyone who's listening. It's been hard for everybody, but I really do feel terrible for like the teens and young adults. Anyway. But then B's mom, Kelly Oxford, who was a writer on our show, who we love, like got this job interview type like pitch thing that she couldn't move. And so couldn't bring B, like couldn't do it. So Mark flew to LA, picked the kid up, and met us in Orlando with B the next day on Saturday. So it's the nicest thing ever. And it was so amazing. And it was so good to see little B. I love that kid so much. But anyway, we're on the plane. I had my noise canceling like AirPods in immediately because I was like, I don't want to hear any complaining about anything. And because we're going to Disney World. And Birdie's like, that noise isn't normal. As we're taxiing, that noise isn't normal. I was like, Birdie, I think it's just like the engines just make weird loud noises. I don't know. And then legit 3 seconds later, the plane has just stopped. And then the pilot comes on and he's like, hello, like you may have heard that noise. That noise is not normal. And it's coming from the left side. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to run a few diagnostics, blah, blah, blah. Okay. 2 hours on the ground, on the plane. Didn't let us off on the plane. And at a certain point, Birdie, Chris, my older kid, has has like as we all fucking, who doesn't, has a lot, and I know you relate to this, has a lot of like anxiety and can get like sort of like things can be hard for them,
Yeah.
And Bird started to kind of like panic at one point. Like, they have to let us off. Like, we can't just keep sitting here. Like, they have to let us off. And started like spinning up a little bit. And I could see it happening. And the other thing is like, there are multiple ways of coping. But because we had been so late, I like didn't have any snacks on me. I didn't have any drink, like water or any drink or anything to give Birdie. So I was just sort of like trying my best to help talk them down and through it and like what was happening, whatever. And then I noticed this woman in the row in front of us to the right. So Birdie's on the aisle. So the woman's like on the kitty corner aisle. First of all, the lady has that thing on where you have your text really giant because you don't want to wear reading glasses, even though you need to admit that you need reading glasses. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
And I can see that she is texting a group of people. Busy Phillips' daughter is on the flight and is freaking the fuck out. And I was like, all right, bitch. Like, I'm gonna, like, I almost, so Chris, this is like what you're talking about. So then you have a choice. I'm like, do I cause a fucking scene and get kicked off of this plane and like make it a whole thing? And then this could have really fucking backfired on me. But I was like, oh my God, Birdie, look at that fucking lady's text. And Birdie saw it, of course, because anyone can see it because homegirl needs glasses. Anyway, you could see it 10 rows back is my point. And Birdie was like, ugh, hey, this is so gross. I was like, yeah. And Birdie's like, I'm a child. Like, I struggle with mental health issues. That's something that she thinks that should be taken to the group chat. It snapped Birdie right out of the panic. And they were just like, this woman has some nerve. Like, who's like totally righteous and indignant. And then I was like, okay, like I wanted to say something, but I also wanted to just get the plane moving and get to Walt Disney World. So I was like, here's what I'm going to do. Birdie's like, what are you going to do? It's like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about it on my podcast. And Birdie's like, yeah, you are. Like, okay, deal. So I'm talking about it on my podcast, and lady, I'm putting you on blast. I don't know if you listen to this podcast, but also guys, just like for anyone out there, like if you see a person that is, I don't know, just trying to parent their children, I don't know, maybe that's just like a thing, like keep it to yourself. I don't even know. Which brings me to the second thing, which is the resurgence of the like Gawker Stalker by way of that site Du Moi, Caissie. Chris, do you remember Gawker Stalker?
I do remember Gawker Stalker, but I don't know Du Moi.
Right. Well, I didn't either. And then I did Bowen Yang's podcast, and he was like, you know, you've been featured on Du Moi, like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what the heck is Du Moi? And it's an Instagram account that's essentially Gawker Stalker, where people just write in where they've spotted people and what they're doing. And I don't know. I have lots of feelings, but I do feel this. All of the ones I started like kind of looking through it after they told me about it on the podcast. So many of them are like, you know, Busy Phillips, like eating at this restaurant with her kids, Anon, please. And my feeling is this. If you're going to be the fucking asshole who like puts people on blast for being in public and like living their fucking lives, I don't think you should get to be anonymous. Because I don't, you know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I'm with you. I am not a very famous person. Like I've always been very big in the underground and then occasionally come up for air in the mainstream has kind of been my MO with the career stuff. And there was a stretch where, because I had a public access TV show for many years that kind of became a cult hit and eventually became a cable show. And I remember having I was aware how funny it was while it was happening. They had posters for the TV show all over the 7 train line, but I lived on the 7 train line, and I was not famous, or I was not rich enough. Like, I wasn't getting cars everywhere. Like, I couldn't afford that. They weren't sending them. So I'd be on the 7 train pulling in and out of stations, and there'd be big pictures of my head, and I was like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable, and like, funny thing. But the dark side of it is, like, I remember there's one a lot of people love, and I get why it's good, but I showed up on there once where they'll do things where it's like pictures of celebrities, and I was like so low level compared to anyone else who's ever been featured under it, and it was a picture of me, and the caption was like, oh, it looks like we all found out Chris Gethard bites his nails. And as soon as I saw the picture, I remember thinking to myself, I remember that exact day, and I was biting my nails because I was watching this person point their phone at me pretending they weren't, and it was driving me completely insane. And I was nervous. I was like really nervous and really scared. And I actually had an incident. It's so funny that we went down this track because I mentioned the subway masturbator and raising a kid. One of my big personal breaking points with New York City was there was a stretch there, like 2017, I had my TV show on the air. I had an HBO special come out right in the midst of that. I had a podcast that it got featured on This American Life. So it was like this 18-month stretch where, like, if you've heard of me, it was probably for something that happened within 18 months of my 41 years on Earth. So it was very intense and positive in 99% of the ways. But I was once eating in a diner on 10th Avenue and 58th Street, I think. And I was eating by myself. I was like in between stand-up gigs. And I come from northern New Jersey. And if you know anything about Jersey, you know diners are like churches to people who grew up in Jersey. You have your neighborhood diner, your favorite diners. When you're in high school, that's where every weekend night you wind up at the diner with your friends. Like, that is a safe zone, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm eating there, and I was reading an article on my phone, and all of a sudden I get an alert that I've been tagged in something. And I open it up, and it's Facebook. And I have been tagged in a photo in a very nice group of fans of mine, which I'm lucky to have, and I'm flattered to have it. But it's a picture of me eating in the diner that I am currently still in.
No, real time.
Yeah, and it says, guys, look who I just found. Let's all guess what he's eating. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, there's someone in this place right now who took a secret picture of me, and I don't know who it is. And it really freaked me out. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't shake it. And my wife was going, look, you've worked really hard to get successful. You're finally getting to a place where this is happening. Think of it as a sign of success. Even my shrink for a while was kind of like, you keep bringing this up, and it's a little, she didn't say this word, but kind of like a little, like, get off the high horse. Like, you're complaining about being recognized, you know, like, right. And I get it. But then I cracked the code with my shrink because she finally was like, why aren't you dropping? And look, like, I've been very public about it. Like, I really, for a big chunk of my life, I was in a dangerous place when it came to mental stuff. I really was. And there were a few years there where I was on a medication called Risperdal, where, if anybody out there has heard of it, it's an antipsychotic. Yeah. And the root cause was because I had like really severe paranoia. And anytime I drove, I would think police were following me. I constantly thought like people were following me. And my shrink, she nailed it so hard. She goes, I've realized what's going on. I go, what? And she goes, when someone's taking clandestine photos of you, she's going, you're having this sense memory that you're insane.
Yeah, it's your worst fear.
And she goes, because for a few years there, you thought people were following you around and spying on you and shit. And that is the memory, that's the feeling you have from the scariest stretch of your life. But she goes, it was so brilliant. She goes, you got to realize it's okay to be freaked out by it now because it's real. She goes, right. You're having the sense memory of something that wasn't real, and it's scaring you because it's a feeling you never wanted to feel again. But now the feeling's real, so it's okay. It's okay to be freaked out that someone's taking pictures of you and you don't know who they are or where they are. Wow. The problem 20 years ago was that it wasn't real, and that unlocked a lot for me. But that was like my version of that, and it really freaked me out. And just for the record, I was eating an egg white omelet with spinach feta and whole wheat toast and a vanilla Coke.
Okay, that honestly sounds
gosh.
delightful, though, as a meal.
That sounds very good. I mean, I have always had a really sort of weird relationship with, when I worked for David Letterman, everybody knew where the Ed Sullivan Theater was. People would wait to, sort of have contact with him when he was leaving the office. He
famously had a stalker too.
He had so many stalkers. I mean, he had the famous one, but he then had so many, and there was just something about him that would make a woman pack up her children and all her belongings and drive across the country to profess her love to him for whatever reason. And that was part of my job, to like keep track of these people that were sending letters and just keep an eye on how that was going and talk to security about it. But so he was always really, sort of cautious when he was leaving. And if he was in a hurry to leave at night, he would sort of like hunker down and baseball cap and, sort of reduce his height to scurry off to his car to, just so he wasn't so recognizable. And very often at night, I would go to his car with him, but I'm nobody, so who cares? But one thing is that he would also often put us on the show back then, because that would, you'd get paid to be on the show, and that would like double your salary for the week. And so I never wanted to be famous, but I wanted to be on the show because I wanted to get like twice the money for the week. And so that was exciting to me. So I'd be like, yeah, I'll be on TV for twice the money. Hell yeah. And so there was one night where we were leaving and he was, in his coat, hunkered down in his collar. And a guy like jumped out and grabbed my arm and said, "Oh my God, it's you. You're my favorite character on the show. And Dave is such a dad." And he was like, "No." He like instantly gave up trying to be unseen. And he was like, "She's not a character. She's a real person. And you waited here to ambush her. And that's scary. And you touched her. You do not." And of course he like made him apologize. And I was like, oh my God, like I would have been, but it was scary and he was right. And then that gave me like a real taste of like what it is and how weird it can be. I mean, listen, Dave loved to make people apologize. He also made Duran Duran apologize to me one time for like shoving past me on Stairwell as well.
Well, that's amazing.
But yeah, so it gave me like a real taste of like what it was like to have.
Chris even said it. Like, there is this idea that has permeated the culture, which is like, you're so fucking lucky to be there.
Yeah.
You need to take this part of it along with it because you're just lucky. You're just so lucky to even have people that want to talk to you, that want to be fans of you, that want to take pictures, clandestine pictures of you in a diner in Paramus. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, the idea that because what we do is rare and that we, rely on people liking us and rooting for us, that then we have to like be okay with having people take weird stalkery pictures of us. Like I just reject that idea. I've never treated somebody that I'm a fan of that way. I would, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
I just wouldn't do it.
I think it's unfair.
I wouldn't
because
text my friends like, Jessica Alba's on my flight and her kid is freaking the fuck out. You know what I mean?
I think
that never happened.
I think it's unfair because I think, you're in the course of, Chris, your comedy, you're going and you're performing for people, and that's like a transaction that they've, they want to come see you. They're a fan, but they haven't paid to see you at a diner. You know what I mean? And if that's exciting for them, they can take it in. And, that's like a personal. If they want to come and say hello to you in a way that's respectful, that's a judgment call or whatever, and how you choose to receive that. Or if someone wants to see you or say something on a flight busy, but that's not part of the agreement of what you're giving as a performer. So then to like report on it and make it part of the transaction, I think it's kind of unfair, especially to do it in an unkind way. This week, Monique, the comedian Monique, was, I don't know if you guys know, she was kind of in hot water with a lot of people because someone sent her a picture. She's been on this kick of like that women, I think Black women should present themselves a certain way when they're in public, that they should make an effort to look nice. And
wait, she's saying that?
Yes, that
okay.
They should, I
don't know about this,
they should be dressed nicely and have their hair done, and so, which is fine. That's an opinion that she has, but somebody sent her a picture of a woman who, in their opinion, wasn't dressed nicely in public, and Monique posted it. Was like, and it was basically like a creep shot of this woman who didn't consent to being posted to like millions of people. And, and so that's also kind of like the same thing, like in reverse. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, yes. And that's the whole thing, like where people, do these like Twitter threads or whatever about, I mean, sometimes it's about celebrities. Like, I think about the one that affected my life personally. Yes. But then sometimes it's just like, like those two random people on the airplane that the people are sitting behind and they're like giving the play-by-play and the whole thing goes viral. And then these two people like get off an airplane 3 hours later and they're at the center of some fucking cultural moment that they did not consent to being a part of. And they're just like, okay, guys, like, you don't know my situation. You don't know what's going on. I think that people like boundaries have started to, fray.
Yeah, they really haven't. I think also people's brains are like a little broken around like the technology.
People are, well, yes.
We were just talking about everybody has these cell phones and, it's a little printing press in your pocket. You don't realize how powerful it is, how quickly it can help you spread something. And you're not in control of how, Chris, I'm sure you've gone viral many times with, well, you talked about it in your special, Half of My Life. You talked about how you did this joke about Gatorland in Orlando, and it's a really funny bit about this amusement park. You tell it. You say, because
since my parents do live in Orlando or outside of Orlando, I've gone there a lot, and we don't go to Disney World every time because, it's a lot of money and you want variety. And my wife and I once went to a place called Gatorland, and it's just this like amazingly old school, like no rules. You walk in, there's gators everywhere. You can buy hot dogs and just throw them willy-nilly, like no, what? Not even like, here's the area to go feed the alligators. Just say, yeah, have fun. And they have a gator wrestling show, and they have a zip line that goes over the gators. Like that's part of your thrill is like, oh, we're going to dangle you like meat above the gator. So,
oh my God.
I did a whole bit about basically comparing Disney World and Gatorland and how the whole bit was like, Disney World is like a very corporate experience and Gatorland's like the real, like true, like, sawdust on the floor, Americana, old school. And I worked on the bit for years, and I did it on a show on NPR once, and they had told me, oh, the show doesn't get archived. So I was like, oh, cool. Then I don't need to burn the joke after I'm done with it. And didn't realize it was a massive show. It was called Live from Here. It just got canceled, which was shocking.
But like millions of people heard it.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
like, all of a sudden it went from being like a joke I'd been kind of working on because I was going to put it out on an album someday to like, oops, didn't realize a few million people just heard this, and now the people the joke is about know about it. And yeah, they have every right to know about it, but I wasn't anticipating this being the way they found out. Uh-oh. But then it worked out well because in the special, we actually developed like a friendship, and my special ends with me performing that joke for 30 alligators and no humans.
Luckily, they were excited. The alligators and their caretakers were excited about it.
But I definitely exposed a place and had a moment of, oh God, they're going to hate me. They're going to be so mad at me for doing this. So I was on that side of the line, yeah.
I mean, I told a story on The Tonight Show with Fallon years and years ago about this crazy vacation we had taken into the jungle in Mexico. And I did not name the place. And my friend Irene, essentially like a jaguar, like attacked her room the first night that we were there. And the people were like, there's no jaguars here. It's not possible. It was a tiny raccoon. And we're like, Irene is like, you guys, I am not crazy. It was a giant cat. It was a jaguar. It was a giant black cat. And we looked up, like it was like there wasn't this was so long ago. Like, I feel like we didn't have like good smartphones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like we couldn't even get like the area, if the area was known for jaguars. But in the little like library bar place, they had some like books about the area. And I fully found that jaguars were in the thing. And we showed it to the guy and he was like, no. It was a raccoon. I'm telling you, it was a raccoon. The raccoons are pretty big. And I'm like, no. Okay, whatever. And so then Irene was so freaked out. And this couple who was staying at this small jungle place overheard. And they're like, wait, we'll take the secluded like hut because the one that we're staying in is like kind of in the middle of everything. And we wanted to be alone. And we knew this because they had been fucking real loudly since we got there and everyone could hear it. So anyway, Irene was like, great. I'm happy to take your room, let's exchange. And then we didn't see the couple again until 4 days later. We're getting on the boat to go back to the mainland, whatever, to go back. And the guy, the boyfriend, was like, hey, did you hear what happened to us? We're like, no, what? And he's like, giant jaguar jumped in through our window and I had to break a wine bottle and chase it out. And we're like, are you fucking kidding me? And Irene's like, I told you guys. Anyway, it's a great story. So the point being, I told that story on Kimmel and then cut to like 3 months later, I ran into the actress Lake Bell at a thing in Los Angeles. And she was like, hey, so weird. I just took this vacation to this like jungle resort and they asked if I knew you. And they were like really upset that you're telling lies about their resort. And I was like, what? Like, what is happening? I was like, first of all, I did not say where I was ever. This predated Instagram. So it's not like it wasn't anywhere except for the story that I just told you that I told almost exactly the same on Kimmel. Not Kimmel, Fallon. You guys, whatever. They're all named Jimmy. I don't know. It was Fallon, not Kimmel. It was Fallon. And I never said I didn't even say like the Providence in Mexico. I didn't even say like anywhere near where we were. I just said a resort in the jungle in Mexico. Anyway, they were real mad about it. They reached out to guest Lake Bell.
I had a similar one but I think I did the right thing by them. So 2017, my wife and I, we were trying to get pregnant. We knew we were like, not gonna, we knew that we had like one big vacation left in us until baby time. And then things were going to change. So we went to Sri Lanka. It was, we looked up the time of year we were traveling. It was like, okay, the two places in the world that are warm right now and that don't have Zika are Sri Lanka and New Zealand. And we kind of flipped a coin. First of all, the most incredible place I've ever been. I feel like it was pure actual magic and everyone should see it. I want to just make sure everybody involved in Sri Lanka tourism knows I am all about it. Shout to the tops. That being said, yes. My wife loves yoga, very into it. And she's always said it would be very good for me. And I've never been able to stick with it. I've tried it a handful of times. And she found this place where we were in this beach town and there was a yoga instructor where it was like something out of fucking Indiana Jones. You had to walk up this giant staircase up the side of a mountain. And you get to a Buddhist compound with like a bunch of temples and buildings and stuff. And there was a guy teaching yoga up there and an outdoor pagoda. So I'm like, all right, if I'm going to do yoga,
Yeah, this is the place.
Climbing a Sri Lankan mountain to a Buddhist compound and doing it outdoors above the ocean, like magic. So we go, and here's where there's a very important piece of information where I can show you guys on the Zoom, but they can see this. Do you see how my elbows don't really like straighten correctly? Do you see that bone?
Sure.
I have this joint condition where I was born with it. I've never done a push-up in my life. I've never done a pull-up in my life. My arms like lock up, and my knees have a similar thing. My hands are like, I have some joint stuff. So that's always been part of my self-consciousness with yoga, where I'm like, I can't do a lot of stuff. And my wife's like, it's yoga. You take it at your own pace. Chill out.
Of course.
So I go and I'm in the back, and this guy's teaching yoga. And this is like a lot of yoga people. I mean, they're also in Sri Lanka climbing a mountain to take a class. Like, this is clearly a priority for them. And my wife's very good at it. So I'm in the back, and he has someone who's clearly like not like an assistant teacher, but clearly a student who's there every time, who he trusts. And he sends her to the back with me to like re-explain the exercises so he doesn't have to slow down too much for everybody else. I appreciate that. But so we're pretty deep into the class, and he has us doing a very basic downward dog. And then the next thing I know, he is standing next to me saying to the class, I want everyone else to turn around and watch this man. And everybody else stops, and I'm doing my shitty downward dog. And he goes, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the form of this downward? And I'm sitting there, whoa. Like, I'm like, whoa. And everyone's so quiet. And then someone finally out of pity is like, I don't know, maybe like a 5. And he's like, let's be honest, this is a 1. Okay, buddy, you're going to want to do this and that. And I'm sitting there trying to go, like, I can't do it. And he's like, no, adjust like this. And I physically cannot do what he's asking me to do. And it finally just like kind of awkwardly stops and moves on. And I was so humiliated.
God.
And then after the class, my wife went up to the guy and gets in a shouting match with the yoga. She's like, I've been trying to get him to do fucking yoga for years. You think he's ever going to try this shit again? That's not what... And then we leave, and I do have North Jersey in me in a big way. So we're walking away. I say to my wife, I go, I got to say something or else I'm just going to be pissed the rest of our vacation. So I go back, and I walk up to the guy. I'm like, dude, that was completely fucked up. And he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not walking away without an apology. And he's like, yeah, I made you feel bad. I'm really sorry about that. And I start to walk away, and he goes, but the thing, and he starts to kind of and I turn around, I go, no buts. I was like, you motherfucker, no buts. You're fucking full of yourself. No fucking buts. I don't want to hear your butt. And he kept trying to, and I was like, legitimately, I'm not a fighter, and I'm not claiming I am, but I grew up a fighter, and it was coming back out. And I'm like in this guy's face, and it was bad. And I left a TripAdvisor review in a rage, and I put it on Facebook.
Oh my God.
On the vacation, on my personal Facebook, not like a public thing. Like I have one of those ones that here's the Chris Gethard one, and then here's my one that's just like friends from high school and my family.
Yeah.
And I checked it the day after it went up, and it had gone viral. It was like 1,000 likes and comments, and people who were in the class saying that's not what happened. And then other people going, I was in the class too. It kind of is what happened, and this and that. And I said, oh my God, I'm destroying a small Sri Lankan business in a Buddhist temple. I should take this down. So I took it down despite the viral nature. But it was a very funny, completely rage-filled thing. So it started to really move. I said, who do I really want to be in life? Okay, I don't want to wreck a small business in Sri Lanka. I don't want to do it. So I took it down. But I did eventually tell the story on Colbert. So I got that out of it.
I do have to say, like, that is a part of why I think people, we do have this like direct line to get the thing out when we feel we've been wronged. And then the trick is that, like, I guess sort of like everybody could always feel wronged by everything. Some people do feel wronged by everything, And so the temptation, like the pull of the internet of doing one of those threads, or just like, airing your grievances publicly for the world to see. I mean, they generally don't go viral, but I'm sure it was very well written because you're a great writer.
I was in the zone.
In the zone.
I was pissed.
Do you write great? Okay, Caissie knows this about me. Do you write great fucking angry emails or letters at people?
I do. I've gotten better about not sending them.
You don't send them. Yeah, me too.
I will write them out sometimes. And both my mom and my wife, and I don't do this because it's too tempting, they keep them in the drafts folder.
That's crazy.
They'll have the nuclear option. They'll have I have it sitting there edited. It says exactly what I want to say. And if I get pushed another step too far and I just want to end a relationship, I can click send at any moment. I can't do that. I can't have access to a weapon like that. So I let them go. I'll write them out. I'll let them go.
I mean, I have gotten so much better about letting them go, but I also did kind of let a lot of my anger inform my book writing. So I suppose I didn't let that shit go.
But that's the place for it, right?
I guess so.
I don't know. I have to be careful about the drafts folder because I've accidentally sent the angry email when I've not intended. I've also accidentally copied the person when I've been bitching about them to other people. On the one time I did it like fully to an executive that had like not bought an idea that I thought was a great idea. But I will say it must have been like really effective bitching because somehow he apologized to me and it was like I felt like very powerful in that moment because I was like, this is like a man apologizing to me when I'm fully wrong. He must have been very terrified in that moment. Felt good.
I sent an email to my manager bitching pretty heavily about my agent and did not realize I had accidentally hit reply all instead of reply. And the agent I was bitching about read it, as did his boss. And I felt
But here's what I'm going to say.
Great.
Sometimes, I don't know, or sometimes people need a little bit of a fire lit.
It did work out that way where the boss was like, it's good for me to know this and we're going to get to work. And the guy was like, yeah, I have screwed up. And I did leave that agency shortly after that. So it all worked out okay. But that was a moment of actual, like, oh, no, like, because that's what a manager's, as far as I can tell, a big part of having a manager is just to complain about your agents, right? Like, that's part of their job.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what everybody does and why they take so much, but that's just me.
I'm sure all of them individually feel like they take so little, but then when it adds, it all almost adds up to 100%.
Well,
should we say what we're doing our best? Sorry.
Same.
Yeah.
I was going to do it because I already said what I'm doing my best at this week, didn't I?
Which was not choking that lady out on the plane?
Yeah. Keeping it together and deciding that I was just going to tell the story on the podcast.
Yeah.
And maybe it would lead to some interesting conversation, which I think it did.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear about a thing. And I don't know, Chris, you can chime in how you feel about this. But when people, I was with my family in Disney World. Several like fans came up during the time when I was there and were very sweet and sort of like keeping it low, trying to keep it low pro, but did ask for photos. And I was like, of course, like, let's take a quick selfie. Like, I get it. That I in no way am not happy or grateful or enjoy meeting the people who respond to the work that I do or this podcast, especially lots of podcast fans, Caissie. I just want you to know.
Oh, that's
like
really
literally
nice.
Almost everyone who came up to me was like, I love the podcast. Or anyone who said anything to me was like, Busy, we love the podcast.
What did they say about me?
Busy, Caissie knows so much and she just has so much knowledge and you're so lucky to be partnered with her. And I hope that she continues to work with you because she really makes you better. This is what my mom said,
She's just
Chris.
saying what her mom says about me, Chris. That's not what people say.
My mom's obsessed with Chris, but it is also what people say. You are a wealth of knowledge and I am lucky to be partnered with you.
That is very nice.
But I'm just saying, like, people are like, Girls 5 have a podcast. But all of this to say, I'm not like opposed to having people say hello in a sweet and like and gracious like nice way, like normal, I guess. I don't love someone taking a weird picture of me when I'm like in the middle of eating a Mickey ice cream thing and posting it online. Like, I would much rather pose for a photo with you than have you take some creeper shot of me that I'm not aware is being taken. And also, don't text your friends about my kid.
The kid stuff in particular is over the line.
And
it's hard. Yeah, it sucks.
It's a weird situation because, listen, I'm going to be like real talk. Biz, if you and I were at a restaurant and we saw someone having a parenting moment, I don't know that you and I wouldn't be like, oh, that person looks like they're having a rough time with their kid. I don't know that we wouldn't do that. If it's weird because in that situation, that person had a name to put to the person and their child.
Well, and the text very much felt like they were passing judgment.
Make your text small if you need to talk about it, but also realize that like you're talking about someone that people know about, and that's like not information that you maybe want to pass. I think it's weird because I think,
oh my God. Wait, I also forgot the best part, which was that Birdie in that thing said to me, also, do you want to tell that lady that she misgendered me? And I was like, this is a great point, kid.
Yeah.
This is a great fucking point.
Yeah. Listen, just be careful. Just treat people the way you'd want to be treated.
Also, to be fair, we'd been on a fucking plane for an hour and a half with no snacks and no water. And my kid is 12 and has panic. Like, come on. I think we did a great job.
I feel too, like when people are like, oh, people who've been on TV complaining about getting recognized from being on TV. I get it. And I think things like kids, nobody wants to see a picture of themselves eating. I can tell you that. Nobody wants that. You don't want to see a picture of you holding like a burrito up into your mouth. Like you just don't. But to me, I also go, I get it. I do get it. And I don't want to complain too much. But I'll also tell you on my end, like, my career does remain small. And some of that is because I haven't gotten auditions that I've auditioned for. Another part of it, though, is I haven't gone to LA and done pilot season in over 10 years. And I've chosen to do that. And when my podcast became like a source of income, I said, oh, thank God I have a safety net where I can stay off the grid a little bit. And I don't have to chase TV stuff as much. And right now, I mostly act, and then when I get enough to get my health insurance and my pension credit, I start really thinking hard about how much do I want to do, unless it's something that I'm really passionate about. Point being, like, everybody's always told me, you've never gone and lived in LA for even a stretch of time. Like, what are you doing? And then I sit and stress about my career. They go, it's kind of on you. I go, yeah, I moved out to Western New Jersey. Like, not even one of the town, not even Maplewood or Montclair, where all the city people go. Like, so I go, yeah, I get it. But also, I think maybe sometimes people would be surprised at like, and I'm low level. I was once at Disney World, to loop it back around that. I was eating with my mom, and a guy came up and said, hey, didn't I see you on The Office? And I said, yeah, man. He said, any chance I could get a picture? And I took the picture. And then he's like, so what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm eating with my mom. And he's like, oh, that's your mom, huh? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what rides you been on? And I'm like, tell him a couple rides. Yeah, dude, have you been here? I'm like, and it's hitting a point where I go, I don't see my mom more than a couple times a year. I kind of want to sit down and eat with my mom. And I do scale things back. And I sit here, I go, I was on 2 episodes of The Office. I was on, and one was just like a 2-line callback. Like, I sit here, I go, man, like, I've opted out of doing a lot of stuff, and it makes me financially stress out that I don't do more. And then I sit here, I go, what's it like for Rainn Wilson? What's it like for Jenna Fischer, for John Krasinski? Like, I can't, if I get recognized this much for being the guy who tried to hit Oscar with a pipe in season 9 when Carell wasn't even on the show anymore. I didn't even get on the show until Carell was gone. What's it like? And I feel like there's a lot of people in that boat. And I go, yeah, I get it. I get people don't want to hear TV people complain about it. I've opted out a lot because I don't want to see myself in pictures in the diner anymore. I can't handle it. I get it. And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain line.
I do think that like Caissie, to Caissie's point, like whether you're on TV or you're like a person witnessing some wild thing, you know, on an airplane that is with two non-famous people and you decide to like, I think that people just need to be more aware in this time, not less aware of everyone else's humanity and everyone else's fragility. Like, we've just all been through a fucking lot, all of us. And like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to make everything fodder for entertainment or gossip is like really demeaning a human experience and is really demeaning what life is. Like, if you think like talking shit about my kid to your friend group who's having a panic attack on an airplane, if that like gives you something, you need to reevaluate what's going on in your life. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I've been having this thought lately, and it keeps recurring. And like creatively, when I'm writing and things like that, I keep thinking this thought, and I don't know if it's super dismal and hopeless or if it's really positive, where I'm like, if I just assume everyone I encounter is having the worst day they've had in a long time, and I give them that benefit of the doubt, I will be a better person for it. And if I get that something, like if somebody's in front of me at the cash machine and they're taking forever and I'm sitting here going, how can you not remember your code? You picked the code, you idiot. If I just go, maybe they're trying to get ransom money. Maybe their mom got kidnapped. Maybe I'll just give them that level of benefit of the doubt. If I give everybody that extreme level benefit of the doubt, maybe I can just be a more relaxed person and the world can be slightly happier for it. I sort of feel like everything's so fast paced now and everything's so driven by that ability where you realize if somebody listened to your child and sensed, oh, this is driven by actual fear, and this is a young person who's in a situation that's starting to create panic, maybe that's a little bit less of a text chain tidbit and a little bit more of a thing where you go, that sucks, you know? That sucks.
Yeah. Or like, how about you turn around and you're like, hey, I have some gum in my bag. Do you want any gum? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, that's all I'm saying. Like,
can I help?
Can I help you? Like, hey guys, like the lady next to me was flying alone with a very, very tiny new baby, 3 months old. Oh God, that baby was so delicious. It is. I don't love it when a baby tempts me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't love it when a baby looks at me and sees into my soul and is like, come on.
Seductress baby.
Come on. Your eggs are almost gone. Do it. Do it one more time. But anyway, the lady was like, after when we were finally, they fixed the noise. I don't even know what happened. The plane was fine. Obviously, I'm here. We're in the air and they were doing like the service and the lady clearly needed something and the baby was like kind of freaking out a little bit, like starting to get fussy, hungry. And so she was like, I could see her, that thing that you do as a parent where you're like, I'm making a decision. Do I put the baby on the seat and do the thing I need to do? Or what am I? And she was just sort of like paralyzed, like holding a crying baby, looking back and forth. And then she looked to the flight attendant who was at this point kind of behind us. And I just saw this whole thing happen in like a second and a half. And I was like, do you need something? Let me get you something. What do you need? And she's like, just my bag is up above. They made me, my bag and it has the and I was like, I got it. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, grabbed the bag. So she didn't have to, but just if you're paying attention to the world around you and the things that are happening, I don't know, it's just so much easier to be fucking decent than to like.
Yeah. Can I just make something easier for someone? And by the way, like it kind of feels nice. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah, you get to feel good about yourself.
Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be like all Polly Sunshine. Like sometimes people are dicks and it feels good to like give someone the finger or to like mumble bitch under your breath at someone. Lord knows I've done it. But like, you know, if you're looking at a situation, if you're passing a situation, ask like, can I help the situation? And if you can't help, maybe just stay out of it. And like, if you can help. And like, and also FYI, I've been yelled at for trying to help before, but that feels a lot.
Sure.
That feels a lot.
Same.
That feels a lot better than getting.
I will never forget. This is probably 15 years ago. I was on the 1 train and a woman got on and she was crying. And she sat down in a seat and was like sobbing. And this train car was full and everyone was ignoring it. And I just remember having that. For as many years as I lived in New York, I never totally felt like, I was like, the moments where humanity totally goes away, I still see them. They bother me. And I went and sat down next to her and just quietly said, you know, whatever's going on, I hope it's going to be okay. Let me know if I can help. And I had no bad intentions except like, oh, this person seems like they're really losing it. And I got about 4 words in and she just goes, you do not, don't say a thing to me, right? You don't say a word. And I was like, this is okay. I guess I will just turn into a real New Yorker and just ignore the tears and pain of others. Okay.
Wait,
but
Chris,
I tried.
I do have a very important question.
Yeah.
Was it me?
Could have been.
Because I actually am very concerned that it may have been.
I don't know if you were hanging around New York.
What was the tray?
It was the red line. It was the one. It was in Uptown. The Uptown one from 23rd Street. I never forgot it.
Wait.
You do not. Don't say a word right now. I was like, all right. And that
Did she have blonde hair?
She did.
Was it winter?
I don't remember. Is this legit? Do you remember crying your eyes out and yelling at a man on the one train?
I don't remember yelling at a man, but it doesn't sound unlike me to yell at a man ever.
Yeah.
Like, especially a white dude. No offense, but like, you know what I mean? Like but I was 15 years ago, was in New York doing the Broadway workshops for Cry Baby, the musical. And it was like, I was at just a real shitty fucking low point in my life. It might have been like 16 years ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
And I had been like my boyfriend had like broken my heart. I'd come to New York hoping to make things better. I like tried to hook up with one of the guys in the cast, and that was a disaster and gross. And and then I was staying in, I didn't have like, even though I'd been on Dawson's Creek for 2 years, like didn't have a ton of expendable income, money saved. And I was staying in the like basement apartment of my best friend from childhood's dad's friend. I don't know. It was they were a family. They were nice. They were very kind to let me stay there. But like, I didn't know them at all. And so I was taking the train after just a fucking day and a night that had been disastrous. And maybe it was evening. I can't even remember. But I just remember getting on the train and going uptown and like losing it in such an intense way, like you're describing, like sobbing so hard. And just like, what?
This sounds like chances? It is possible.
What a so meet nuts. Cute that.
I like rage.
But I also probably would have just been like, don't even fucking talk to me, dude. I don't even want, like, nothing.
Yeah, I want you that was exactly that was exactly the vibe.
I want you to both to undergo hypnosis with like a oh my God, like a police sketch artist, and see if your sketches look like each other.
Did you get off the train soon after that?
I did. It was not long after.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just like feel like this is a real possibility. I mean, who knows? But it feels like a very real possibility to me.
It really is.
It was like February-ish. It was cold. It was definitely cold. And I was there for 2 weeks. It snowed during that time. And and I was on the train. I was like, I like lost my, and I fucking, that makes sense. I mean, I could see it. I can see it all. I can't specifically remember yelling at you or if it was you or if I yelled at somebody, but I do remember being just like fucking insane. And at that time I was like, I would have screamed at anyone, but especially a dude.
I would say there is a decent percentage chance that
there's a chance
a decade and a half ago you screamed at me on the one train.
But listen, you know what? Even if it wasn't, even like, I feel like this is like some kind of proxy closure for both of your situations. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, because what is really yelling at Chris Gethard and what is really getting yelled at by Busy Phillips? You know what I mean?
Ooh,
like it basically really happened. You know what I mean? Basically. Basically.
Also, I could see that in that moment, like, I probably was like, oh, now this guy wants to fucking hit on me. Like, you know what I mean?
And it was not that. I could say truthfully in my heart, I was like, this person is having a bad time. And I just want to make sure I just want to make sure they know somebody sees it. I want to make sure they don't feel totally invisible. And
how could we go back in time? How could we find out?
This calls for a black box theater show.
Ooh.
I've been looking for that.
Okay, guys, now listen. Me too. Listen, I'm in New York now, Chris. So if you want to workshop some stuff, I'm here.
Please.
I don't think Girls Five Eva's going back I don't think we're going back to shooting until like late September, October. So I'm avail. Tech avail, as they say. Okay, so Caissie. Yes. What are you doing your best at this week?
Oh my gosh. All right. I'm just going to try. My kids listen to the podcast. So I'm sorry, guys. Block your ears. I'm just going to try to, this is not a pornographic podcast. So I'm just going to try to say this as fast as possible. So you've been to my house, you know, it's like an open plan house, and you know that we bought it with the intention of being like empty nesters. Like everybody's moved out, everybody's going to college. And you also know that like we've been in a pandemic, and so people didn't go to college. So you know that like we've all been living under the same roof for like a long time. And like it's been over a year now. And you know that in the space of that year, at some point, married people have to have had sex at some point in that. Not a lot of times, but sometimes. And so you also know the back wall of my house is like all windows, right? So like if you want to walk the dogs out, you like will walk like at night, if you walk the dogs out, because like the coyotes will get the dogs. And so like my son will walk the dogs out. And so like if you try to have sex at night, there's a chance like he could walk the dogs out and like see in the bedroom window. But then you have to put down these really heavy blinds that make a big noise. And so you might as well just yell like, we're gonna have sex, like because of like the blind noise. So like you don't want to do that. So then you have like choices. You can like put the blinds down, which is basically like an announcement of sex, or you can just try to like really quickly and quietly have sex before like a kid goes out to like walk the dogs or whatever. So the other night we just like opted for like the quick and quiet thing. And like my husband does like a very physical job. He works really hard all day.
I thought you were talking about sex.
I did too. 1,000%.
Well, I was like, wow. Okay, Matt.
He does a really physical job. He works hard all day. We had gone for a walk. We walked like an additional like 3 miles for like exercise for me. He took me for a walk, talking about taking dogs and wives for walks. And so we opted for a quick, quiet sex. And so we were doing that. And then like it just suddenly stopped like in the middle of it. And then, so when that happens, like I panicked because it wasn't me that just stopped. And so, you know, when you're our age and it just stops, you're like, oh shit, what's happening? And it was, that my husband got like a Charlie horse in his leg. And it was like he had like a golf ball in the back of his leg, but then he was just trying to work out this Charlie horse in his leg. But then after all like the quickness and the quietness that we were trying to accomplish, he was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, like yelling, oh my God. And then I was like, no, lay it down. And then I was like rubbing the Charlie horse. And then he was like, yes, 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 that's it. Yes, right there, right there. And then I realized like we are making like the craziest like sex like noises over this Charlie horse.
Oh my God.
Like it sounded like way more sex than we were having or that we were. And I was just like, I mean, So we didn't complete sex, and we also
Wait, so how is this something you did your best at?
I mean, we did our best to do it like one time, and we did it like half a time. And then we tried to be like clandestine about it. And then that wasn't successful. I mean, we just did our best, but sometimes it doesn't work out. You know, we'll try again like in the next quarter, I guess.
Next lockdown? You're just gonna wait till the next lockdown?
I mean, yeah, I guess like what, just, I don't know when it'll happen again.
Okay. Well, aren't you guys going away on vacation? I mean,
yeah, but like
trip.
we're like
it's not vacation. It's
going on like a road trip. Like what, we're gonna, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah.
Well, Lincoln, if you're listening, it was not sex noises you heard. The sex had stopped abruptly.
It was like a 2 minutes, dude. And then it was all Charlie horse.
Oh, God, what a bummer. What an actual true bummer. But you did your best, and that's what's important.
We tried,
Okay.
we tried. The magic is still there. It's just
the magic's always there for you guys.
The trick was not completed.
Oh, God. All right. Well, Chris, what are you doing your best at this week?
I just also want to say, let's remember to hydrate next time. Let's really remember to hydrate next time.
Hydrate.
Eat
and
some
electrolytes.
bananas.
Electrolytes, guys.
Get some electrolytes in there. I'm doing my best at being suburban. I'm doing a really good job of it. We've lived in this house about a year now. Just this week, we had our house exterior painted.
Nice.
This house, when we bought it, I'm not like I took every dime I've ever made in entertainment. I bought this house. The house has a sprinkler system, which I thought I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was broken. I had guys come in and fix it. This week, I put down both lawn food and insect and grub control.
Yes.
We had a patch in the back where there was a bunch of bamboo, and we removed it, and it's growing back. And I've been digging out the rhizomes. No. I've been digging out the rhizomes. It's horrific.
Chris,
it's like a horror movie.
No, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something right now, and I'm going to save you years of your life.
Sure.
You need to accept the bamboo and move the fuck on. That bamboo it's just going to drive you fucking insane. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
I had it in our old house. We like took the backyard down to like the what is it called? Like the bedrock. Yeah. Like we went down, like we cleaned. It came back. The bamboo came back. It is like.
It's not ideal.
Just get a fucking panda and move on.
Our neighbor, apparently the old neighbor of the old owner of our house, the person who used to own the house behind us, both of those houses sold last year. Apparently the woman who used to live behind us used to sunbathe nude, and it would drive the owner of our house crazy. She put up this bamboo out of
Hence
spite.
the bamboo.
It was spite bamboo. And there was she had dug a big trench around it. And we knocked everything out. And I think all we've really done was removed the protective trench that was containing it. And now it's going where it wants. So I dig out the rhizomes. It's scary and daunting and an uphill climb. But that being said, I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job of just being a suburban dad. I think
there's nothing more powerful than spite bamboo.
Oh,
but also,
crazy.
I also want to say I really understand and respect your journey as a homeowner and a relatively new father, relatively new homeowner. Mm-hmm. A lot goes into being a homeowner that I think people don't understand if they've lived in a city or have had landlords their whole lives. Like things like gutters and like having trees cleaned.
It's endless.
Like I didn't know it's endless, and it goes on and on. Like, having your sprinklers system service, like doing all of these things, and it is like you got to figure it out because it's all the maintenance of your home, painting your home, making sure that the like windows are sealed. I don't even know, dude. It's a lot. So it feels like you're in it and you're really doing it and you're really doing your best, but you're never going to beat that bamboo.
This neighborhood we moved into, it's a reach for me. Like I took all the money I've ever made and I bought the house, and I think I can sustain living here. But there's a lot of people here who everything is paid for. they have disposable income. And I was mowing the lawn one day and I hit like the water pipe where it comes up. I hit it by accident and it made this loud noise. And this neighborhood kid happened to be walking by. And he's like, what was that? And I was like, oh, I hit a thing. And it was like tail end of mowing the lawn. I was just like a tired, sweaty mess. He's like, why are you even doing that? And I was like, well, because I gotta get it done. He's like, well, why don't my parents hire people to do that? I was like, yeah, I can't. Like, what am I going to say to this 11-year-old child? Yeah, I can't afford that. Like, how do I explain class divide to a rich 11-year-old? How do I do it?
Though. You should try. You should try. I'm telling you, it is like one thing that I do to my kid all the time is like whenever I get like a whiff of that stuff, which happens a fair amount. These kids are growing up like very privileged little people. I really have to like talk to them, both of them, about like, you know what? Let's talk about money and
make him bring you some snacks from his house.
Okay, wait, listen, guys, we got to get to this interview.
Yes.
With Gail Simmons. Do you watch Top Chef, Chris?
I have not watched in a few years, but I'll tell you what, earlier today, I did another podcast hosted by Richard Blaze, and it was lovely.
Love Richard Blaze.
We love Richard Blaze.
Food Court. I did Food Court. Me and my wife did Food Court with Richard Blaze.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we love Blaze. Gail loves Blaze. We talk about Blaze in the interview. Don't we, Case?
Yes.
Yeah. And Gail and I are good buddies now, good friends, and I love her very much. And she has a new show, Top Chef Amateurs. Starts tomorrow night, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not great at the details, Chris. This is one thing I sort of lack. I have no information in front of me. I'm just winging it. But I love Gail. I've been a fan of hers for years, and now we're good friends, and it's very exciting, and she has a lot of things to say, so listen. Function of beauty, function of beauty. What is your function? It's your function of beauty. I like that one. I think it's getting, that one's coming, that's coming into focus. I think that one's coming into focus.
Yeah, you're refining it.
Ooh, I am. Guys, you know we love our function of beauty here at Busy Phillips is doing her best. My whole family uses it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And listen, what is your current flavor of your function of beauty hair products?
Mango for
your
customized
mango, customized shampoo and conditioner.
Yeah.
The mango smells so good. Mango, rose, pear, eucalyptus. I actually really enjoy the mango myself.
Yeah.
One of my children loves the eucalyptus, and I get it.
Yeah,
And
I like that too.
And you know what? Yeah, it's Cricket. Cricket says, I like to smell like a koala.
Of course.
So, obviously.
Yeah.
Listen, we know what your perfect hair should look like. It's, voluminous, full, shiny, but how does it smell? Well, Function of Beauty's custom hair makes sure you don't neglect the most powerful of your body's senses. Scent is perhaps the body's most underappreciated of the senses. Did I just sound like the mom from Schitt's Creek?
Yeah,
Moira Rose.
In a good way. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. We love them. Function of Beauty is the world leader in fully customized hair care. What do? You take a quiz. That's right. A short but thorough quiz. And then they create a unique formula that gives your hair everything it needs to look and feel its best. Every product is sulfate and paraben free, which is a big deal in my house because if you've heard this ad before, you know that one of my kids is allergic to sulfates. It's vegan, cruelty-free, and there are over 60,000 real 5-star customer reviews. Caissie and I are using the tropical mango for summer.
I also have peach, which is delicious.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
No, you should have told me. I would have gotten peach too. Okay.
Well, you can still.
I guess.
Yeah. And
Maybe
I also
next
have I also have lavender because you know who loved lavender? Prince. Yes.
Anyway, lavender is I have lavender as well. Yeah. Sweet peach, crisp pear, lavender, rose, eucalyptus. If fragrance is not your vibe, that's okay. You can also do unscented. So turn your beauty routine into an aromatherapy sesh or a tropical getaway with the mango. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Go to functionofbeauty.com/best to take your quiz and save 20% on your first order. That applies to their full range of customized hair, skin, and body products. That's functionofbeauty.com/best to let them know that you heard about it here and to get 20% off your order. functionofbeauty.com/best. You know, sometimes it's really hard to sleep when I'm thinking of clickbait for this show. Guys, don't worry. Get to the third act of the show and you'll understand. Anyway, but you know what helps me sleep really well?
Your Helix mattress.
My Helix mattress. Caissie, you're right. I love it.
It's a great
love
mattress.
My Helix pillow. I'm not even kidding. I love my Helix pillow.
The pillow is so good. Why did I say pillow?
Did you just call it a pillow? Wait, that's hilarious. I love it. You guys, we're changing the name to pillow. I love the Helix pillow. I love the Helix pillow. I don't love having a bad night's sleep. I don't love waking up with numb hands, which I was for a while. And I was like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Like, this is it. It's all. And then I got a new mattress and was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. My mattress sucked. I think people forget to get new mattresses.
Yeah.
I think it's a thing you forget.
Yeah.
That you have to buy a new one.
And that it's like a huge part of your life.
Yeah. And you spend so many hours on your mattress. It had better support you in the ways you need support. Helix Sleep has a quiz. You know I love a quiz. It takes 2 minutes. It's faster than a BuzzFeed quiz.
And more important, frankly.
And quite frankly, you don't need to know what Spice Girl you are. You need to know what kind of Helix mattress best suits you and your body and the way that you sleep, because everybody is unique. Helix knows that. There are lots of different kinds of mattress models to choose from. They have soft and medium and firm and mattresses that cool you down if you sleep hot, and even a Helix Plus mattress for plus size folks. Listen, we all took the quiz. We love it. It's easy, and the delivery is very fast and easy.
Very fast.
So guys, if you're looking for a mattress, or if right now as you're listening to this, you're like, oh my God, when was the last time I got a new mattress? Then it's definitely time for you to get a new mattress. Take the quiz, order the mattress that you're matched to, and the mattress comes right to your door, shipped for free. You don't ever need to go to a mattress store again. Helix is awesome, but don't take my word for it. Helix was awarded #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ and Wired magazine. Just go to helixsleep.com/best. Take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they're going to match you to a customized mattress that is going to give you the best sleep of your life. They have a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for, are you ready for this? 100 nights risk-free. And they will even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you will love it. So you will never see those people again. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. We love the pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/best. Guys, this is the most exciting thing. I mean, well, we talk to a lot of friends. We talk to a lot of friends on this show. Wouldn't you say, Caissie?
Yeah, mostly.
Gail Simmons is someone that I was a fan of first from Top Chef, and then met through my good friend Sam Hanks, Colin Hanks' wife.
The nicest.
The nicest, and also adore, and worked with Gail first, and then they started a production company together. But so I ended up meeting Gail through Sam, but Gail lived in New York. So it was like, you know, we would see each other when she was out one time, you know, like we'd like run into each other at Soul Cycle or like, or at Sam's house. We would make a point to have like one afternoon. I'd probably see Gail, how many times a year would we see each other until this?
Once or twice.
Once or twice a year. But I love every time we saw Gail and her husband and their kid, loved. Then pandemic vibes 2020. Mm-hmm. And did you text me? I think you texted me.
I did, because I had several conversations with you, and specifically I remember one long conversation with Mark over the years about Charleston.
Right.
Because he knew that I
before
loved
you guys
Charleston.
went there for Top Chef. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we went there for Top Chef and came back, and Mark and I had this one talk about how he loved it and how much I loved it, and I started going back a lot after Top Chef. And then I remember him telling me about driving across the country with Cricket.
With Birdie.
With Birdie. They drove across country to spend the summer there. And so I had always had that in my mind. And then during, towards the end of spring last year, when we realized that like summer was canceled and we needed a plan for us and our children, we found a house. Oh no, before we even found a house, we decided this is the time. Why don't we try going down to South Carolina for the summer? And had this memory that you guys often had done that. So I texted you about it and was like, what do you think? Is that a crazy thing to do?
And I said, not only do I not think it's a crazy thing to do, I think we're going to do it too. I think we're going to make it the thing that we do. Guys, let's try to put ourselves back June 2020. It was tough to make these decisions. It was. We didn't know what was happening. We still don't, to be fair. And that's a lesson that we've all learned, that we never will know what the fuck is happening. But but you were like, I think we're going to do this, but I don't know. And I said, I think we're going to do it, but I also don't know. You found the house not far from the house we had already rented, had already committed to renting. So we were like sort of in it no matter what, even if we decided not to try to trek across the country. But then once I knew you guys were going to be there, I was like, okay, I think we can do this. And we ended up spending, like, we podded. Pods. Remember pods, guys?
Remember pods. We better remember
So
them.
vividly.
They might be coming
come
back
around.
Yeah.
Pods are,
Don't forget them. Don't forget
those
them.
pods are quickly coming back.
Hold them close.
Oof. Anyway, so we podded together for the summer, which is, as anyone knows, it's a way to really get close quickly. Because it was
Learn
one
a
other
lot about the
family.
families.
That we had
basically three families.
Yeah. And I did like a little summer camp with our kids.
That was really like the highlight memory. Like I think back to that summer, and the camp that you ran for our children really stands out as like such a beautiful thing. It really does. I know I'm not going to cry about it, but there, when I think back to that moment in our lives and all the uncertainty, and there was so much of it. And I remember you were like, I'm going to do this. Just drop your daughter off every morning at 10 a.m. And I was like, you really could do, are you sure? Who knew? I didn't know. A lot of people probably knew. I didn't know that Busy Phillips was a secret crafting master / camp director. Like she's like Julie from The Love Boat. Like she just took it on and just brought my child into her fold. It was really, and it kind of like, it really made our summer in a lot of ways.
Well, you also had, Gail, I just saw immediately, like, my kids are older, but Cole was little. You had like a baby.
We did, still do, but he's definitely grown.
I mean, and so like,
and when our babysitter had ghosted us, remember there was like
and that happened, right? And that happened.
We were juggling.
You had hired like a babysitter that was gonna get tested and then sort of like quarantine and stay with you guys, like, and then she just didn't show up.
What happened? Did you ever find out?
I think she decided to party.
Yeah, she. My husband, who is an expert at creeping on Instagram, essentially sleuthing. He is a private investigator in his secret life. Totally found out, and this is a note to all you millennials. You really leave a path. You leave a track.
There's a trail.
Cover your tracks if you want. There's a trail. It's not Hansel and Gretel style. It doesn't get eaten with the breadcrumbs. It is there forever.
Yeah.
She disappeared, but we had known her because she had been in New York and then had moved down to Charleston. And then, so we had paid her once on Venmo. So my husband like went back and looked at her Venmo, and then you can often see what people are also paying for on Venmo.
Yeah.
And he saw that the night before she was supposed to show up and start babysitting for us, she was in New York having drinks with another babysitter that we knew from our neighborhood.
Having drinks, talking about how she wasn't going to show up.
Yeah, like the line of the payment on Venmo to her friend was like, rosé all day or something like that. So we were like, okay, I guess she went to New York to drink with her friends, and that was the last we heard of it. And then we've put it behind us.
Yeah.
There was some rage, but we put it behind us.
It was because also I think everybody in that moment was excited for a break.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know what I mean? And I think that like being full-time, full-on for those months, everybody was like, I can do this as long as there's like an end in sight.
And as long as nothing rocks that very fragile boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And it was nerve-wracking because you're inviting somebody new into your core vibes. And
You dodged a Becky.
I think you dodged it.
Yeah, no question.
For sure. And so I just was like, well, obviously you need to just like drop this kid off. I can handle it.
You did.
I did. It was fun. It was a lot of me negotiating with the kids to do the activities and not to watch TV or be on screens. It was a lot like, guys, let's just make these volcanoes and then you can watch a show while we eat lunch. Like it was just like a constant battle of will. And especially like, I think because obviously I'm Cricket's mom, the other kids were a little bit more likely to not fight back with me about the screen time. But Cricket would just be like rolling her eyes at me at every chance. I mean, truly.
Well, it's interesting just to note, at the risk of sounding like a cheese ball, that when I think back to that month of our lives and all of the chaos that was circling in the world, I don't think of the bad stuff. I think of the art camp, and I think of like watching the sunset and having really beautiful dinners on your deck. And I think about all those really, like, those are the moments that now I actually feel will never happen again, that were really beautiful, because now life has come back and life has intruded on that sort of, we were in this little insulated world that actually was quite beautiful.
I know. And it's true. Like, I feel super bonded to you and your family now, like for life. And like, we went through this thing together and it really was beautiful. And also Gail, of course, because she's Gail Simmons, trained culinary expert, food writer, dynamic television personality. You know her from Top Chef. Anyway, Food and Wine magazine. We got hooked up with some restaurants and like some pretty incredible culinary experiences in the safety of our own home, which was amazing.
Yeah, there were some good meals.
Chef Dennis,
was
amazing.
Chef BJ is an amazing man. Yeah, and the guys who like showed up at our house with a old El Camino and a bathtub of oysters.
Yeah, they were. That was a pivot for those guys. They were opening their restaurant. They were set to open their new. I love the concept of this restaurant. It's on Kiowa, which is an island outside of Charleston, and their concept is oysters and hot dogs.
Yeah,
they're like,
it's kind of perfect.
Yeah, they're like, let's just give the people what they want: oysters and hot dogs. And they were set to open in the spring of 2020. Obviously, couldn't. They did a pivot. They bought like 2 El Caminos.
Like flatbed, amazing 70s trucks.
Made the backs essentially coolers, would like open it up and serve oysters out of their, and they come to you like, and then you're outside socially distanced and oysters, and it was so fun. It was like, that was one of the most fun meals, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was fun.
It was great. Really crazy.
And then Gail and I were chatting for years as part of the Bravo family. I would see her very frequently when she was a guest on Watch What Happens Live. So she's such a familiar face to me. But what she doesn't know, and I'm about to put him on blast, is that entire time is Gail Simmons is my husband Matt's celebrity crush.
Oh my God. I'm so excited.
Wait, I never
And that's how likable Gail Simmons is like, I don't even care. I'm like, yeah, everyone has a crush on her. Who wouldn't? She's great.
That is no bite.
That is amazing.
I'm like,
I'm honored. I mean,
in
that means a
other
lot to me.
situations, I'd be like, that's a little too real. This is a lady I see all the time. Like, it's, that's weird. But I'm like, no, she's great. I have a crush on her too.
And also that I'm like very good
guys.
friends with now as well. What are the chances of that?
Tell him I'm here for it. Thank you. That's very kind. And funny. Yeah.
I love
Watch
that.
What Happens for us is always a funny thing. Still is. I was just saying that I'm doing it on Monday for the finale of Top Chef. And we did it a year ago for the finale of our last season. And it was actually the last live thing that I did before the shutdown. And we did it kind of feeling like we shouldn't be there. There was that few days where we all were still doing things and then being like, wait, maybe that wasn't a good idea. And it was actually
and then Andy
risking.
had COVID.
5 days later, he called me to tell me, and we all had to quarantine because it was before testing, before anything. And he was really sick. And that was like one of the first major dodges of like, this is it. Okay, it's real and it's right here in our living room, literally in Andy's living room. And so it was like that last appearance on Watch What Happens is like very vivid in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'll always associate with that moment in like world history.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh gosh.
Because then also you like had the fear that you had been.
Yeah, we all thought we were for sure. And it's amazing that we didn't get sick, truthfully. Thank God. And thank God Andy is okay. But I'm excited to go back and do it again.
Are you going?
Wipe it clean.
Are you going in person yet?
They are in the studio now.
They
but
are?
The only reason, they just went back this week. I think we were gonna go in studio, but Padma's traveling right now, and Tom's I think out on the North Fork. So it didn't make sense for me to go and for us have to be. So we're just doing it virtually, which is fine because they've been doing that so much anyway.
Yeah,
it makes life easier.
That's fine.
So many surreal moments at Watch What Happens Live, by the way. So I'm glad
I bet. You saw it all.
We were legitimately there the night that Osama bin Laden was killed. It was like Alexis, the housewife, and Willie Geist were the guests.
Oh my God.
And Willie Geist was like, this is weird, but like not like I'm the biggest deal journalist in the world, but I don't think I can like go on like a drinky talk show. Like I think I have to like go back to 30 Rock. And we were like, yeah. So it was just Andy and like Alexis, the housewife, talking about like
being like, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, they kind of actually broke the news because it was like the first to be like, just FYI, a lot of you are tuning in right now. Just FYI, Osama bin Laden's dead. Like a lot of you are just turning on the television. And it was just like the most surreal moment of my life. Just being like,
I can imagine.
What a mind blower.
Yeah, that's pretty huge.
But
that's insane.
Andy, it is insane. I mean, that's like life-changing. My thing about Andy is that, Andy created Top Chef. Andy was my executive producer for the first 8 years or maybe 8 seasons anyway of our show.
Yeah.
He was like on set with us every day.
Caissie, we need to book Andy on the show. He said he would do it.
I mean, you guys are like neighbors now. You and Gail gang up on him.
Yeah.
He'll listen to you guys more than me.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
all right,
maybe.
I'll do it.
He'll feel more.
I think that pivot is so interesting. Like,
yes,
to go from executive to host and like to give yourself that job.
I mean, he really didn't. That's the truth, is that like he was the most like, is this the right thing to do? And it was really other people that were like, yeah, go for it. Like other people telling him.
Oh, really?
And it sort of happened very organically. Like, whenever we hang out, we talk about how like he was traveling with us for Top Chef and like on set and giving, episode notes, and that he was such a TV like fan, deep rooted from like early, obviously if you've like read his books or know his story, such a TV-aholic and loved being the person behind the camera. And then it started really slowly. I mean, that like Watch What Happens Live started as an after show online. Like we used to shoot it in Inglewood, New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Like
in his
at
office.
this, and it was like out in the MSNBC studios. I don't know. It was like super tiny.
Yeah, it was like for the Project
little
Runway
online show.
Yeah,
it was like Project Runway and then the Real Housewives and Top Chef. It was like really a funny thing that he did.
So it's interesting. You know, we talk about like pivots on the show. This is like one of the things that we're kind of very interested in, how people end up where they are. And I want to ask you about Top Chef Amateurs, which is coming out. But before we get to that, like, I know you started as a food editor, right? Yeah. Food and Wine magazine. I have watched Top Chef since 2016. So I do know when you're introduced every single time, I do feel like I could.
I'm not anymore of Food and Wine magazine, but I was for the first,
of course,
15 seasons of the show. Yeah. I mean, it is very much was my home. And as an appropriate segue, my sort of, and I've been thinking a lot about this in preparation for talking to you guys today, that, like, you know, sure, there's lots of pivots. I could talk about what happened in last year, and I can talk about, you know, other times in my life. But really, probably the biggest pivot for me was not unlike Andy's. I spent the first many years of my career, and my goals when I started working in the food industry was that I wanted to be a food writer. Because when I started, you know, in the 90s, because I'm old,
girl,
food media meant, there it is. We're talking 20 plus years ago, that food media meant publishing, meant magazines, meant writing. There wasn't blogs and food television. And like, you know, the Food Network was like a little thing, and there was like a couple of white male chefs on it. And then there was, you know, the beginning of like daytime cooking demos by women chefs. But it was like, it's really a different format than it is now.
Who was like the first celebrity? Was it Rocco DiSpirito? DiSpirito?
DiSpirito, yeah. I mean, yes, I would say the first, though, was really like, if you want to go back into like
Julia Child.
Yeah, sure, but not even with her, obviously, her and Jacques. But even in the modern incarnation, like Emerald.
Yeah.
You know, Emerald, Wolfgang Puck. And,
right, sure.
And Mario Batali.
Yeah. And Mario Batali, right.
For better or worse. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, so long, Mario.
Shit happens. But yeah. And Emerald, and they still are very, you know, they're also very relevant in the history of how food and kind of pop culture intersected. And so, but when I started out and decided that food was my beat, like food, it was food that I was interested in, and started that kind of path, I was very single-minded in it. I wanted to be a food journalist. I wanted to write about food, whether that was about restaurants or about food culture, but it was about writing. There was never aspirations for being on camera. There was never aspirations. Because that wasn't even like in my purview. You know what I mean?
It wasn't even a job.
It wasn't a job. And so even knowing that was sort of happening, the Emeralds of the world, and I was amazed by them and inspired and interested in them, it wasn't at all what my plan was, what my path was forward. I graduated college and I was writing restaurant reviews for my college paper. And then I got an internship I grew up in Canada, and I got an internship at a magazine and then a newspaper in Canada, and kind of just gravitated to the food sections. And when I finally said out loud, okay, this is it. I want to write about food. This is my beat. This is what I want to do. I can say it out by name. My editors, when I was like a junior, you know, editorial assistant, were like, well, that's funny, Gail, because you don't know anything about food. Like, so you can't just write about it when you don't know how to cook. Do you know how to cook? And I was like, I like to eat stuff. I mean, they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong.
It's true, but what a rude awakening.
I mean, you know, you can't, it's like, I like to watch movies. I can't be a movie director just because I like to watch. You got to study your craft, right? There is as we all know.
Right.
You're right, Caissie, that was like a real eye-opening moment where I was like, oh shit, yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right. Just because you like to eat, and like I like to cook in my mom's kitchen, like with my girlfriends, and I like to go to restaurants because I think they're cool and interesting. Like, and I had done a lot of travel, and you know, I definitely had a history in my family of like food and travel. My mom was actually a food writer and a cook. So it was, and she ran a cooking school. So this all happened naturally. I absorbed it, but it was not anything that I still kind of understood how to make into a job. So I quit working for that newspaper and I moved to New York and went to culinary school. But even so, like the next 5 years were just dedicated to learning how to cook, like going to culinary school, working in kitchens, being a line cook, being like getting my ass handed to me every day on the job, and then taking that and going into writing. And like with the dream sort of job final point for me is if I could land a job ultimately at a food magazine, which I did sort of circuitously, but it was only when I got to Food and Wine. I still never thought about being on television. I was still doing this thing, this one thing. And it was really when Top Chef came to the magazine for help as their like kind of partner in developing the show. And they kind of threw me into the fire that I was like, wait a second. Like this is not how I planned it. This is to the very left of what I had planned to ever do. And this could go very badly.
But it is so interesting because I feel like Top Chef was one of the first, like Top Chef was one of the shows that really like set the bar for what like sophisticated reality competition show could look like. That's not like, right? Don't you think?
Right, yes.
Oh
that
my
didn't sort of
gosh.
rely on like tropes and
right.
and stereotypes, and wasn't about like the reality, but more about the
But you
competition
had
and about
nothing-
professionals.
But that must have been, I just have to say, that must have been a giant leap of faith because how do you know that they're not going to make you look like Ozzy Osbourne or whatever? At this point in television history is all I'm saying.
We did not know.
Reality shows are a thing, kind of, and competition shows are kind of becoming a thing, and their game shows certainly were a thing. But how do you know, like, how do you trust it? And to make that leap, was it just that, like, the executives from the company making the show were like you had
Sort
to trust
of, yes.
them?
You nailed it. If you could put your mind back there, this was 2005.
Oh my God, I can't.
Right?
I was drunk.
So the reality shows, reality competition shows for me meant Fear Factor, Big Brother, and Survivor. Like those were the only shows. The only food competition show that existed to this point was Iron Chef Japan. Which was brilliant, but not what we were doing. So really, I trusted my boss at Food and Wine, who is remains to this day, a huge mentor of mine. Neither of us are at Food and Wine anymore, but she was an incredible trailblazer in what she did as the publisher, and then also our editor-in-chief, the two of them together, very brilliant women who I admired. And they were like, this could be something or it could be a huge failure. Either way, we're going to tell you to go do it for us. But it's okay because you're just going to go and do it for a couple weeks and then you'll come back and resume your regular job and we'll just like go about our business and that'll be that.
That's kind of amazing.
That's such a
what
gift.
a gift. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. Yes, it was. Of course, it changed the course of my life. But I never have thought about it in those terms.
Well, because
you're right. I had their
have
support.
said, if you want to do this, you can do it, but you're not coming back here if it doesn't. I've been put in that position a million times.
Yes.
I'm sure Busy has.
Yes.
You know, like if you want to try this, you can. But if it doesn't go great, you're not coming back here.
Right.
You know?
Well,
We're
I
gonna
was
need
doing
to
it
fill-
for them.
Yeah.
Right.
I was doing it for them. But you're right. It was unprecedented. Also, the sort of weird thing about food media at the time was that there was food publishing. There were like snobby, sort of elitist, glossy food magazines. And then there was like food television that was sort of considered by those glossy food magazines. There was very church and state, right? And it was very like, and so the fact that we were dipping our toes in reality television, like I actually think that Bravo had gone to other magazines that will remain unnamed first, and they had been turned down because it was too like lowbrow. But when they came to Food and Wine, my publisher and editor-in-chief, like thankfully they had the foresight to be like, you know what? We need a younger audience. We want a younger audience. You know, the breadth and sheer numbers of TV viewers versus readers of a magazine that average viewer is probably 46 years old. Like, you can't capture it in magazines anymore. And they saw the future of magazines. And they knew that this could be a huge moment there was like no other opportunities for a magazine to get that kind of exposure. And they saw that as a business opportunity. And when Bravo, they sent me for a screen test. And when Bravo said, yes, you know what, we want Gail. I told some like crazy story about bursting into tears over eggs I ate once at a restaurant because they were so bad. And they were like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get her on the show because she'll cry a lot. And thank you, Andy. And and my publisher was like, you know what, go do this. Like, let's give this a shot. What's the worst that can happen? I remember arriving in San Francisco for that first season. Literally, I had just been like thrown to the wolves, I felt, by the magazine. Because none of us knew what we were getting into. There was no proven, like we could have been a huge failure. And I didn't care about failing like to the regular viewer that I didn't know and I would never have to face. It was for me and for Tom, we've talked about this a lot over the years, for Tom Colicchio, who had agreed to be sort of begrudgingly be our head judge. We were like, what about our industry? Like, what if we are... We are here to represent the food industry. We are food people. We are not TV people. Right. And I said that for like 8 years until my producers finally were like, Gail, you got to give it up. You're a television person, whether you like it or not. Part of the pivot. But really, like, you know, we could have just been the laughingstock of our industry. And I remember the very first season, episode 1, the first person we ever eliminated, our hearts were beating so quickly because we were so afraid what was happening that they had to redo the elimination because it was interfering with the audio. with our microphones.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
It was petrifying.
Oh my God.
So,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I did have a safety net. I did have Food and Wine and I did have their support. And that did make me feel at least a bit comfortable that I could go back.
Just knowing that
if this all didn't work out, I had a place, I had a home to go back to. I hadn't I hadn't risked everything because this was nothing I ever imagined I would do. Ever.
It didn't exist.
You
couldn't well, if you could have imagined it, you would have been Steve Jobs, I guess.
Correct. And I'm not.
Right. Turns out.
I don't know.
Wow. That's kind of incredible. It's also so funny to me that you're talking about how Food and Wine had the vision to be like, we need to bring our magazine to a younger audience, because also at that time, simultaneously, my older son had to have been in like first grade. And you know how they ask, when you're in first grade, they ask families to like, oh, can you send all your old magazines into school? We're going to use them
for collages.
To like cut up for collages. My son was routinely stealing all the Food and Wine magazines and bringing them home. Like I found like a hoard of Food and Wine magazines in my son.
He's my dream child. My daughter would set them on fire, in case you're wondering.
I was going to ask, do your kids, do your kids they eat well? I do know your kids. They eat well.
But they're not like, I'm not going to be that chefy person who's like, oh yeah, my children just eat fancy freaking stupid food. No.
Well, have I ever told you that I thought that like I took full credit for Birdie being an adventurous eater their entire life? Like Birdie would eat anything, try anything, like was super into all different kinds of food and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, because I did that. I did that. And then I had Cricket and I did all of the exact same things. And my child eats bread, cheese, pasta. Well, bread, cheese.
Yeah,
some combination of bread and cheese.
Bread and cheese.
That's it. And then like we'll eat like a broccoli, avocado occasionally. But like it's a crapshoot. You don't get not all of your kids are going to be eating sushi, guys. You know what I mean?
That's perfect. That's exactly right. And I can't tell you how many chefs I speak to every day who tell me that exact history for their children. They're like, I'm a chef and my child only eats white food that's between the temperature of like 65 and 90 degrees and then otherwise nothing. Like, or whatever it is. It has nothing to do with you. It's beyond your control. You can do the best you can. And there's certain things, sure, with eating with kids, you can help. But at the end of the day, they're their own person in all things, right?
I started following that like kids eat in color thing on Instagram. Do you know that?
No, but Googling now.
I really like it. She offers easy things and ideas, and like also, you know, you just keep trying, you just
Yes.
keep trying to introduce things, and which I do. And cricket at this point is just like, I mean, at this point, you know, not a toddler, obviously. Cricket looks at me and is like, "Are you out of your mind?" No. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep asking, and
Just keep doing
someday you will. I'm just gonna put it on your plate, and someday you might take a bite of the green bean. And she's like, "Mom, never." I was like,
But
okay.
you know what? I have this conversation all the time with Jeremy, my husband, and I also have with so many friends, and I talk about it, you know, all the time because it's so much a part of like the fabric of our family and what we do. And yes, I first of all believe, yes, just keep putting it on the plates. Maybe don't talk about it, or sometimes just put it in a bowl on the table, whether or not you put it on their plate. Like, don't ask. I try. I'm not good at this, but I try to just not even mention it's there, but always have it there. Always have it in the fridge. Always have it in the table. Always just be eating it over her, around her, him, them, everyone. And I believe that it'll become, on the long term, something that they identify with or are used to, and will try when they're ready. Because often Dahlia will try foods when I'm not looking. You know what I mean? Like if I just stop talking about it, she'll mindlessly reach across the table and grab that green bean and start eating it. And then she'll have another, and I'll just be like, Jer, don't look. Just don't notice what's happening over there, because it's happening. But I will say too, my brother had one of those children. His oldest child, who is now 21 years old, was a child until he was probably 15 who ate 3 things, to the point where it was worrying their doctors and worrying us. And I would like talk to my therapist about it because it upset me so much, and I wasn't a parent yet. And on the long term, he's now 21. He's off at school at college in Boston, and he comes to New York to visit us and is like, has a list of like ramen and sushi and all the places he wants to eat, and loves exploring new places. And it all worked out. And he's an adult, and he's a healthy, curious person about food. So it's like, you just got to let it happen.
I know. My biggest thing was just this year at their school, because of the COVID protocols.
Yeah.
Like, Cricket would come home from school and having not eaten lunch.
Yes.
Because you couldn't send lunch with the kids because of COVID protocols, and they would offer them 2 things, and Cricket was like, no, that's like, or she would take one and then just clearly not eat it. You know, it was a little bit of it was a struggle.
It's so
eats their
scary.
soul.
Yeah, my younger son just only milk. That's all only milk till like about age 11, I think. And he's a super adventurous eater now. I think he would say that he would say that he tasted everything too much.
That's what I think. Cricket is a super taster.
Yes.
That's my theory.
My younger
sensitive.
son loved chocolate milk, and we would make him chocolate milk, and he would be like, this is the chocolate milk with the bear on the front, and I prefer the chocolate with the cow on the front. And
Does he need a job? Because I
Yes, he
have
does.
many in mind.
Wait, I have a question about that because that's like about a palate thing. And like, did you always? I mean, your mother obviously taught cooking, was a food teacher and food writer as well, as you mentioned. But did you always have like a palate that you could differentiate? Because one thing that people don't, I think that as a viewer and a fan, and then also someone who's been lucky enough to be like a celebrity guest judge on Top Chef.
You have been. Yeah,
Plural.
multiple.
One thing that is almost fucking impossible, and I love food and I love to eat it and I love to like talk about how much I love it, and then you get in it and they're like, okay, but what specifically is coming through for you? What are you tasting? And you're like, I don't know, it just tastes good. Like, how did you develop the language? Was it born out of the food writing? Obviously. That's what I'm answering my own question.
Sort of, yes. No. This is a really good question. And my answer isn't, I think, what everyone else would say. I liken it to honing any other craft. You aren't born an NBA player. You aren't born a violin. Okay, some people are like born, like geniuses with a gift, right? But the majority of people, you need your 10,000 hours,
right,
or whatever it is to become an expert. And I feel like, yes, I grew up in a household that loved food, that celebrated food. My mother was really ahead of her time in a lot of ways, that she was a spontaneous cook when most mothers in the 80s were like leaning on their microwave so that they could get out of the kitchen and go to work and do other things. My mother really focused on that as the thing. And so, yes, that of course rubbed off. And yes, I have a good palate, sense of taste. I have a curiosity. And I think I'm really good at identifying, but I think it's because I trained myself. I put in the work. I think it's practice like anything else. To learn an instrument, to have a voice. You can be born with a good voice, but that doesn't mean that you don't need vocal lessons and training for that voice, right? And the same goes for writing. The language around food is so important. It is really hard to describe taste because it is so personal, so subjective, and also so intangible, right? People ask all the time, like, why Top Chef has had the success it has, when every other show you can like hear the song that the competitors are singing, you can see the dress, you can see hear the stuff, the product of the experts' work. And with food, you really rely on us to be your taste buds. And I think that has forced me as a writer for the 20 plus years of my career, and also on television, articulating that. And our producers ask us all the time, like, describe what it tastes like. Don't say, and there are certain words I've also learned, like saying something tastes good, is amazing, is delicious, doesn't tell me anything about the dish. It's very hard to dig deep. Like I say all the time, I've like hit the wall of adjectives. It's so hard to find more adjectives to describe food, good or bad. So you just start simply like, okay, it's good. Is it good because it's spicy? Is it rich? Does it coat your mouth? Is it sweet? Is it salty? Is it a warm spice? Is it refreshing? And so kind of it takes a lot of like practice of really sort of thinking about what's happening in the experience to find the language for it. But literally, that's also why I went to culinary school. Like, I went to school for this. I'm not saying everybody has to do that. There are so many paths to journalism. You don't necessarily have to go to acting school to be an actor. You well know everyone has their own paths. And Tom's path was certainly so different than mine. And we ended up in different places, but sitting beside each other. That, I for me, went to school to train myself. Like, I needed to learn the language of the kitchen in order to be able to write about it, feeling like I had the authority to do so. And for me, that meant like I needed to I got training.
And then just the wild pivot of being put on camera, you had to learn a whole new skill set.
A whole new skill. That's the scariest, because that came along with it came all the things I hadn't thought about, because I had never even entertained the idea of sort of putting yourself out there so publicly before, and the pros and cons that come with that, exposing yourself in a way, going from being a very private person to a public person, and what that meant. Because I obviously was on a food show, that was now opening the door that my life was public, let alone, because I play myself. Right?
Yeah. Right, of course.
I'm not an actor. I am.
Pregnancies on the show.
Yeah, pregnancies on the show. Oh my gosh.
And a whole bunch of disasters and celebrations, right? Like milestones.
Yeah, just all kinds of things. And this season of Top Chef, I have found to be really just special in the way it's kind of remarkable after so many years. There's something really special about the way that it's been, like the journey of the pandemic season of Top Chef.
We worked really hard at it. Obviously, it had enormous challenges, actually busy. I was thinking this morning, right before we got on together to talk, I have this memory of sitting in your backyard this past summer. And I came over and we were sitting in the backyard, and I said, I had a call this morning with my producers and we're going to Portland and we're shooting this show. And you were like, there's no way. Gail, we're in a pandemic. Hello. You're like, how is that going to happen? I can't. And I felt the same. I was like, I don't know how they expect me to do this. They literally expect me to relocate my family to Portland, Oregon for 2.5 months and shoot exposed, like without masks on and eating. It seemed insane. And I remember you're the first person I told that I was going to go do this. And like, it just seemed totally unimaginable. And then we did it. And we were faced at every step of the way with wildfires and protests and Proud Boy rallies. And
it was fraught. It was fraught.
Yeah. Thank you. It was fraught. Portland became just like the most vivid reflection of the year in America at the moment we were there. But our, credit to our crew and our producers and Bravo for trusting us to do it really safely and to navigate it. Actually, there was an article today in the LA Times I just read. I was so moved by the television editor basically wrote an article about how Top Chef sort of the challenges that we were up against and how we were able to face them and integrate them instead of shying away from them. And I think that was kind of the point of the season. And I think it gave a lot of people sort of refuge. And it was very, I don't know the word relatable, but yes, like everyone understood what was happening because we were all living through it together.
No, yeah, it was really kind of meaningful. There is one thing that's a kind of serious question about the season that I want to ask you and have you go on record about. What was your favorite hat of Tom's this season?
It's a journey. His wardrobe, his wardrobe, and we share a stylist on the show, and she would have opinions. Oh God, so many great hats. I think I need to do a post of like a carousel of all his hats ranked in order.
Oh my God, you should. Please do that. Please.
I just feel like people need to know it's been a huge topic of conversation. And I feel like that we need to know the winner of the season, but also there's another winner. We need to know
the winner of the hats.
Of Tom's hats. And that's a piece of closure that I think people are going to need to have from you to go forward.
Personally, I like his brimmed hats. There was one, and now I'm forgetting which episode it was. He went out and bought it himself and came back and was like, I'm wearing this hat. And I really did love it.
Did anyone start an Instagram or a Twitter account, Tom Colicchio's hats, yet?
I don't know, but if not, we're doing it right here. I know he got a lot of backlash for his little beanie that he wore for one challenge. And it's funny how I'm sure you've had this experience, Busy, where like the outfit looked really good and normal when you're looking at the mirror.
The beanie.
And then when you see it on camera, and it's happened to me a million times, I'm not dissing Tom about it because I would have told him that beanie's not fitting right. Had I thought, it all looked fine. And I've had so many, there's the beanie right there.
Busy holding up a picture of the beanie.
And it was sort of a cold day, and he has a little bald head that he needed to protect. And but I've had so many outfits where I've been like, what? Literally the next day was like, wait, what did I do? What was I thinking?
We even tried to outfit you before you went to Portland.
Tonight's episode is a Busy special.
Is it?
Tonight it is. I bought the dress that I wear on tonight's episode in your living room.
Well, remember when we were in Charleston, my friend Stacy, who owns the clothing store, came over with a truck full of clothing because we didn't want to go to a store. And she brought in all of these clothes for us to try on. And it was like so fun because we were like, maybe you should wear that on Top Chef. Maybe you should wear that on Top Chef. Ooh, I'm so excited.
And I did. Tonight's the night.
I feel like you and Padma have been killing it with the outfits this season on Top Chef.
Did you feel any kind of pressure to like turn it up a bit because of the year that we've had?
In a way, it's funny. I think I felt like, not that I felt pressure, but I was like, this is all we've got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For my joy on this season, I'm going to just like be a little bolder because I have been hiding in my house and I haven't put on heels or put makeup on my face in over a year, or at the time, I guess it was like 9 months or whatever it was. And I literally couldn't believe I was going to put on heels and Spanx. And I'm like, if I'm going to do it, we're going to really do it the best we can. We're going to milk that Top Chef budget for all it's got. So we tried our best.
I mean, I get it though. Like I am normally a person who in previous journeys in my life, like hair and makeup, I'm like, guys, how fast can we do this? I need to get through it. I gotta I don't want to sit here and do hair and makeup. And I know people listening, if you're like, I would love to have my hair and makeup done. Yes, it is super fun for one event to have. It is a privilege to have your hair and makeup done for one event, like, you know, a big thing or maybe a few events or whatever. When you're doing it on a TV show every single day, you're like, you get
it's
to a
just
point
hours
where
of your
like,
life.
it's 2 hours of your life that are gone, that you never get back, and you want it to not be that. But with Girls 5 Eva coming out of the year that we had, I was like,
the wardrobe was spectacular.
But I also just like, I just loved it. I was like, how much longer can we just sit? Can I just sit here and have you do my hair and makeup? Like,
yeah. Well, also because you're like not at home. It was a
that's
real
also
privilege
true.
to just
Yeah,
be
you're right.
having some self-care. I mean, I there's only, you know, I'm not like a fashion, this sounds stupid. I'm not a fashion person. Like to my point about never being on camera before, I'm not like bold. And in the context of Top Chef, it's also not about us. Like very decidedly, the show isn't about me and my fashion choices. And Padma is certainly bolder, and she came from a life of modeling and acting. And so it's like a different game for her. And it's taken me many years to like be comfortable in that and to make bolder decisions or to like just have fun with it and not feel fraught and feel pressure about what I wear and kind of like I feel like my best, but I also feel like me, but I also feel like me in this edited version for television, and that can be okay. And it can be about me, and that's okay. You know, that's been a hard thing to get over for myself, is like dressing up and feeling different than who I feel like I usually am. Putting
in
on
real
that,
life.
putting on like the TV Gail, like Jeremy, my husband, always says, like, there's Gail and then there's TV Gail. And sometimes he's like, I really wish TV Gail were here to make me dinner because you're not doing such a good job. Or like TV Gail would have, would have said this and this and been way more decisive. But regular Gail's just really waning in her decision-making right now.
Doing her best.
Doing my best. Thank you.
Regular Gail is juggling being a mother and a wife and a daughter and having a career and being a businesswoman and writing books and being a chef. You're juggling a lot of things.
You.
So
and regular Gail has a new show with TV Gail.
That's right. Where we actually come together in a really nice way.
Yes.
There is a lot more of regular Gail in the new version of TV Gail.
Okay, so the new show.
Now we're getting really meta. I don't know.
It is. It's hard. It's hard. So the new show is Top Chef Amateurs. Now, was this an idea that you guys had? Like, how did this come about?
Really, it came out of the pandemic in a lot of ways. When the world shut down and restaurants closed.
Sure.
What we all saw was like just the proliferation of home cooking and the level of home cooking.
Well, certainly sourdough bread. And
sourdough.
Come on.
I mean, so much. I was not one of those people because,
me neither.
Again, trying to be a mother and all the things.
I'm not keeping a starter alive. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I can't. I'm trying to keep my children alive. Let's be real.
Correct. Thank you. So I saw it. We all saw it. Everyone, just so many people became such prolific home cooks.
Yes.
And that was sort of, I think, the impetus for Top Chef Amateurs, that we've never been about amateur cooks. We've only been about professionals. That's kind of what the show's foundation has been. It's what differentiates us from every other food competition out there. It's not, Top Chef has never been about people who like think it would be fun to be a chef or think that they're a good home cook and want to try their hand. It's always been about professionals at the highest level. But when restaurants shut down and home cooks got so good, and also we wanted to like lift people up in a different way, our production company, Magical Elves, were like, this is, I think, the moment to maybe let some amateurs into the kitchen, some really great home cooks, and give them the Top Chef experience. So it isn't the same kind of competition. We are not expecting them to do the same thing. We aren't putting them through the ringer in the same way. It's sort of more about wish fulfillment. We bring two home cooks from very diverse corners of the world, careers, what they do in their regular lives, into the Top Chef kitchen. And we sort of put them through a day in the life of Top Chef in a very quick, fun, relaxed, and joyful way. So they come in and we give them a challenge that's based on a challenge we've done on the show over the years, iconic challenges and quick fires. And we sort of put them through that experience and give them a little judge's table.
Wait, that's so exciting. Oh,
it is.
Gosh.
It's funny. You get to relive all the
Can you tell me some of the ones that you're doing? Because when does the show starts next week or in July?
It starts July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st. Oh my God.
Right off of the Top Chef finale. It airs right off of the finale on July 1st. And so things like the mise en place race and blind taste test.
Okay, blind taste test is always my favorite. Mise en place also, because you really see people's skills. And I feel like as a home chef, that one's going to be tough.
It's really tough. We do things like, an amazing egg challenge that we did years ago on the show.
Oh, where you have to cook the egg, the 5-minute egg or the...
Well, they can do whatever they want, but they have 17 different kinds of eggs to cook with, and they have to cook them in a certain number of ways and show a certain number of techniques with them.
I remember this. And somebody got an ostrich egg.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I really am a fan.
And you don't want to make Gail cry with your eggs.
No, that's the whole thing. That's why I loved it so much. We do, a challenge that, there's always been on the show this sort of curse of scallops and risotto.
Yes.
Those are two dishes that the world knows.
Sure.
We've done too many scallops for the world to count. It's like a crutch. And no one has been able to ever nail risotto on the show. So we make them do things like that. We bring back all of the sort of lore of Top Chef for these mega fans who are really great cooks. And more than the fact that they're great cooks, because we're not looking for them to perform as professionals, they are joyful, passionate cooks who just want to get in the kitchen run around the Top Chef kitchen. And by the way, that kitchen is enormous and crazy and industrial. And all of a sudden we just set these two people loose who haven't left their homes in 8 months because this was deep quarantine. And they get to come in and go crazy and cook their hearts out. And we give them 2 alumni, kind of all-stars, as their sous chefs to offer support and guide them. And then we have 2 other alumni as my co-judges. So there's a lot of fanning out moments of crazy fun, silliness. And we all get to, just give each other a big hug at the end of it.
It's a really fun show. I got to see an advanced screening of it.
Wait, how did you get to see it? I didn't get that.
I work in the television industry.
You're so smart. I'm annoyed. I want to see it. I'm so excited for it to, I'll just watch it in the premiere.
Just see it. It's more exciting.
That'll count more, I think. Yeah.
I got to see it, I think, before I even knew that Gail was going to be on the podcast. I just got to see it, I think, because I asked.
Oh, nice.
We
need the ratings busy.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You what?
It's really fun.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
What's funny is that I got it. Obviously, they send it to me to see in advance so that I can remember it because I have no memory for anything I do. I've shot 18 seasons and 4 spinoffs. At this point, my memory's completely shot about the show. I walk out and the next morning can't tell you what we did the night before. But so I was watching it and, they send me a screener, which is a link to screeners for all NBC shows. And you know what I realized when I got onto it? Is that I also have Peacock, and you know what that means.
Girls.
Guess what we're starting to binge? Yeah. Girls 5 Ever. I didn't know I had it. We had no idea we had access to it. But
we talked about it, and I feel like Gail was like, I don't know how to get Peacock. I can't. I don't even know if I can figure it out.
Well, now I know.
Now you do.
Part of the family. I bet because if I can get Peacock, we can find you a way to get access to Top Chef Amateurs.
I mean, I also can just wait until next week and watch it after the finale of Top Chef.
Very soon.
It's actually this week. When is this podcast airing? Next week, Caissie?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, so it's this week.
Oh,
yeah. So it's literally
the next day.
Tomorrow. Guys,
tomorrow, people.
You can watch it tomorrow. It sounds super fun. I told you when you were telling me what the show was that our friend Ike Barinholtz, friend of the show, friend of me personally, needs to, if you do another round, I really need him to be on that show. He's so good and he loves it. We could do Mark and versus Ike Barinholtz.
I mean, we have to get Mark on the show. He's such a good cook. And he also knows the lore. I feel like he could go up against it.
I think he's watched every season of Top Chef. I've missed a few seasons.
He's a champion.
I think he's watched literally every fucking season. And he also has like a mind like a steel trap.
Yeah,
and he remembers everything. Which
how about
sometimes
this?
isn't great.
If you guys can figure out how to get us a second season, we can do the work on the back end to get people to be on the show. We have to do like a celebrity amateurs, I think.
Yes.
I think that would be super fun because also it's like, it's not, I have been asked for many years to participate in like celebrity blah, 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 whatever. And you never want to say yes because it's always super cheesy and it's not like legit anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Top
of course.
Chef
You never
is so
know.
Fucking legit.
We make sure that the experience is really fun. And it's the same crew, it's the same kitchen. We're all there. So I think it feels very much like you are walking into, the chocolate factory. So
what a dream. Yeah, what a dream.
I think a lot of people would be so into that because I think Top Chef has been appointment television for so many years, for so many people that really respect and love television have long respected and loved Top Chef. So that includes,
I agree.
I personally, if I'm putting on my producer hat, I think it'd be easy to pull off a season of celebrity Top Chef amateurs. Cause I think a lot of celebrities would be like, yes, I want to do that for one day.
Well, let's just force our friend Samantha Hanks to make that happen.
Of course. Did you guys know you guys had a show that was that was 1 or 2 seasons called Star Plates? I did that.
You were on that with us too.
I was.
We did. That was the first real show that Sam and I made under our Bumble Pie Productions umbrella.
And it was super fun. You paired like a celebrity with a real chef for a day. And they got to go into a restaurant and cook a signature
like work line
dish.
service.
And I worked line service. Oh, it was very stressful. I found it very stressful.
It was supposed to be. But also, we gave you the tools to succeed.
You did. I learned a lot. I did learn a lot. It was fun.
I could be wrong. I wasn't there that day, but
yeah, it was super fun. And then it was also very stressful.
Yeah,
they really put you in the kitchen.
Good television.
They really put you in the kitchen, guys, and I really had to cook. And I'm not the best at that, and
you're
also not
absolutely competent.
Oh my
I've seen it happen.
Gail,
come on,
you weren't there for when Busy burned her face making latkes. It was very traumatic.
Sweet Lord,
it was traumatic.
It was really
sorry. Latkes of all things.
She burned the moneymaker.
First of all, I make amazing latkes. I really do.
They were amazing.
They rival. I will anytime.
We should have a latke cook-off.
Let's just do it. We're just
gonna have a Hanukkah party next year.
Let's just do it this summer. We're gonna see each other again this summer. Mm-hmm. Let's just make some latkes. Let's do like a brunch, and we'll make latkes. Yeah. My latkes are a real chef's kiss. I've been perfecting them since I was 10 years old because I love latkes. Mm-hmm. The oil got away from me. I may have also been stoned. Caissie, was I stoned?
I think I was stoned.
Track? I mean, possibly.
I think I was stoned. And I just threw that latke in and oil burned my fucking face. And it was
that's very scary.
Terrifying.
Very scary.
For a second I was like, well, I'm blind now and that's just going to be where I'm at. And that's okay. I just will have to figure out other things. But I have a scar on my eye.
That's like one of my worst kitchen. I mean, there's so many things that can happen in a kitchen, but slicing my finger on a mandolin and burning myself with hot sputtering oil are like top 2 right there.
Okay, slicing with the mandolin makes my vagina hurt. You know what I mean?
That's it. Clinches right up.
Here's the thing.
My
built-in Kegel right there.
Every person that's ever used a mandolin has cut their finger off. Every single person. Every time they use one. It's like there's got to be a better way. That's another thing. That's another business venture for another time. Let's invent a safe mandolin where
okay.
I'm
into that.
Because
I would love that.
We can't keep chopping our fingers off.
They do have a little thing. I can't use a mandolin because of my fingernails.
The guard, but then like the guard always pops off, and then like in a frightened moment, for some reason, you try to like catch the potato and you just shove your hand through the mandolin. It's like,
correct.
Yeah. It's not good. My Uncle Tony only had like 7 fingers by the end of his life. Okay. It's like, we can't. We have to fix it.
I once was giving a cooking demonstration to like 80 people. So it was like an intimate group, but enough people that like witnessed it. I'm giving a cooking demonstration.
God, I don't like it already. What happened?
On the mandolin, talking about never, ever taking your eyes off the mandolin. Right, people? And I look up and there it goes. Off with the fingertip. I mean, not in a major way, but in enough that I was like bleeding all over in front of an audience, and it's being recorded, and I had to like go grab a bandage and do the rest of the cooking demo with one hand. I mean, it's just
was that the worst moment you've ever had in front of people trying to make something?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few, but that was. I had to also, I've had the moment where like you turn on the blender without putting the top on, and that happens sometimes because you're just too excited to get things started. I don't know.
Cooking comedy. That's just a classic.
Like, I'm kind of into it. I sort of love
there
it.
could be a bloopers reel for sure.
I mean, I would love it if there was a bloopers reel.
Yeah, I can find it for you.
I'm in. I just feel like, there's so many things that can go wrong while you're cooking. The pressure of doing it in front of an audience and talking at the same time. I mean, it's such a skill set that you essentially never thought you were going to have. Mm-hmm. And then you've just developed, I guess, as you've gone along.
Yeah. I mean, all the training helped. But actually, to your point exactly, I think that that's what's part of the Top Chef formula that's been so amazing is our casting. Not of us. I mean, yes, we're amazing. But really about the contestants and why the show, I think, has had the longevity it has. People think it's just all about casting the best possible cooks, and it's not. Because most cooks cannot talk and cook at the same time.
Right.
And I think that is the magic. Talking and cooking at the same time and making it interesting is a life skill that very few people have. And when you get it in a person who also has a story to tell, and is interesting to watch in both regards, they can tell their story while simultaneously flambeing foie gras or whatever they're doing. That was a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like that is, finding those people is actually like, finding a nugget of gold in the mine or whatever you're doing in
it is super interesting. Like, are there ever people that casting, do you know about this process? Like, are there ever people that casting finds that they're like, this person really needs some help with the talking, but we have to just try?
Absolutely. I mean, let me be clear that I do not do the casting.
Right, of course.
We meet the cast once they're chosen. Tom has a little bit of a say at the beginning because it's such a small chef world that there'll be so many times when he'll be on someone's resume and they'll be like, Tom, do you really know this person? Or this person says they cooked for a chef we know well. And Tom can read a resume like a chef, like an employer. And so he gets involved a little bit. He's been an EP on the show since season 1 for that reason. We otherwise don't get involved in casting, but obviously over the years, especially through Samantha, we see and learn the process so well. And it is really specific to find that right chemistry of the 15 people that come on every season. And there are so many different types of people that they cast. I mean, obviously, but also in the skills you need to have to be a contestant that's compelling.
Oh my goodness.
And that does not mean that just because you're compelling that you're going to do well. Right. The same way that, like, you have to be as good, you have to be a good cook first and foremost, because that's what we're looking for as judges. If you can't cook, you're not going to make it. I don't care how great a person you are anymore. Like, that doesn't fly, right? We are not making a show about how lovely these people are.
Right.
We judge based on what's put in front of us. Right. But our audience can't taste that. So the audience is judging based on how compelling they are. So it needs to be real balance to invest in us, right? In spending time watching our show. And there's plenty of chefs who are amazing chefs in their life, but they get into a kitchen under these circumstances and they can't navigate the kitchen.
And they
There's
freak
also
out.
Chefs,
yeah.
They freak out. there's 8 cameras on you at all time.
Like, we've seen it. We've seen it happen.
Yeah, you know how it goes. The other things that like people as viewers don't see is like, you know, we often while they're cooking can't have the fans on because it interferes with our audio. So it's like 99 degrees in that kitchen. And
which is
sweating.
why people are always dripping sweat. I do have to say that was like, that was a mind-blowing thing that I experienced. Also, I am a sweater, as most people who listen to this podcast know. I sweat a great deal. And so when I went in to do the like walk through chat with the chefs, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because I just was like, oh my God, I'm fucking pouring sweat. It is so hot in there. You cannot imagine how like insanely hot it is.
Yeah. So there's like all these factors that even if you test really well as a contestant and you have the perfect resume, this is such a different we don't really know how they're all going to react together to each other in the kitchen, and if they're going to be able to tell their stories, and that's sort of a crapshoot. But you know, the casting process really tries to find those people who they think will be able to also psychologically live through the journey. It is, as you've seen, especially this year, like it is no easy walk in the park. It's a really emotional, mental game more than anything else.
Yeah. And it's been such a pleasure to see some of the old contestants coming back and just being mentors. I have such a soft spot for Richard Blaze and for Dale Talday. Very, very soft spot for Dale.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I. He was really like, in my eyes, the sleeper hit.
Yeah.
He is like, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he'll appreciate this, that, you know, the last time he was on the show as a contestant, he was sort of a young, fierce, sort of trying to be the badass. You know, he gave off this tough guy scenario, and he was much younger. And he came back this season as like the best, coziest uncle you've ever had. And we all fell back in love with him. I mean, I loved him then for what he was, but now as a person, as someone who I like cherish in my life. And I followed him the whole time. Like, he had 4 restaurants just a few blocks from my house. And we were regulars at Talday, and we loved it. And I've kept up with him, and we've worked together over the years. I shot a pilot with him in 2019 for a different show. Like, I love him, but when he came back for this season, like, Dale had just grown as a person. I don't want to just say like he became a dad. It wasn't that simple, but
no, it never is.
He really is just like a stellar human.
When he came to watch What Happens Live, he was so lovely, and he was so personable, and like just made such a nice connection in a way that people don't always to someone
love hearing that
who's working behind the scenes. It kind of felt like he had seen himself on the show and had made like a little bit of a decision that I'm going to change it up a little bit. And so he actually said, I've been working on some things. Like, it, you know, and so he
did. And it paid off. And he, not only that, but he had some shit in his life. Like, you know, his restaurant partnerships in Brooklyn, he had like a little empire here, and it did not go as planned, because being a restaurateur is the craziest, fucking hardest goddamn job right now.
Yeah.
And not of all things, but it certainly
it's hard.
Is incredibly challenging, and that didn't go as planned.
But I would say, I just think people don't understand how hard being a restaurateur is.
Yeah, it's not glamorous.
When I was you do so much incredible work, Gail, for all kinds of nonprofits. And I know this past year you've done even more work, you know, for people who work in the restaurant industry.
Thank you.
But like when I was, you know, posting about a lot of different organizations and trying to help, I worked at California Pizza Kitchen. A lot of actors, a lot of artists.
I love that part of your
A lot of
story.
actors, a lot of people work in the restaurant industry. There is like a real cross section. Yes. And if you have done that, you know what a tight community a restaurant becomes, even if you're working at a chain restaurant like me, or if you're working at like Jean-Georges. But I was always like surprised by some of the responses I got over the pandemic of like, oh, you're trying to raise money for your rich friends who own restaurants. And I was like, what? Whoever became a billionaire? I mean, well, somebody did, I'm sure, but like
very few
people. Like, I just know that like in order to own, operate, and run a restaurant, you have to you bleed it. You have to love it. It has to be in your body and soul, and you take care of your staff, and like you're so reliant on. You're like working month to month in restaurants most of the time.
If that. Totally.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
is,
many times they're working. Yeah. Like in the red.
Check to check. You know, you can't get paid. You can't pay anyone before you get paid. The chain is so difficult. The margins in a restaurant, the profit margins are dismal. And we have seen like the cracks in the system like no other this year. And I could make this a whole other conversation, but you know, it is definitely a misconception that chefs, you know, celebrity chefs, restaurateurs, are all kind of like rich and just sitting back and letting the money roll in. And really what I saw this year more than anything is most of the restaurateurs I know worried about losing their homes and not being able to pay for, you know, their children. Like literally the most devastating collapse of an industry. And it's a fight every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
You know, and I think that one thing Top Chef has always done, and I think you've done such a great job at, is like to bring people in so that they understand what goes into it, the heart and soul of the industry itself. And, you know, and to be really aware. I mean, I think you guys were probably the at the forefront of people thinking about like, where does my food come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that wasn't before 2006. I don't think that was really like on the radar of things that people thought about.
I think you're right. And I happily give credit to Tom here for really being our North Star on so many of those issues, specifically for the restaurant industry. You know, and I'm grateful to Tom and Padma for like, you know, being my co-pilots at that table for a lot of reasons, both of them differently, but specifically for issues of kind of throwing open the door to the world of restaurants and being transparent about it and making people understand that food touches everyone. Yes, it's a universal language, and that sounds very like kumbaya, but really it means that it is political. You can't say just stick to food, because food is about sustainability and about politics and about the supply chain and about the way we treat each other and run our businesses and the economy.
And treat women.
And treat women.
And everybody needs it and everybody deserves it.
That's right. And it touches, food touches every single person's life. And I think one of the lessons Top Chef has been able to sort of open the conversation to has really been, and this sounds like very heavy, but you know, that everyone is a foodie. Like everyone loves to tell me I'm not a foodie. I don't like food. I'm not into it. But whether they like Top Chef or not, and my answer is like, you're human. You're human.
You like food.
We all eat.
Yeah.
We eat. Whether you like it or not, you like something or you don't like, you have an opinion.
Yeah.
And you make decisions based on that opinion every single day. And those opinions, you know, are waves in the bigger universe, and they are impactful if you think more thoughtfully about them. And food is one avenue where you can see those changes being made.
Guys, the takeaway is Top Chef Amateurs tomorrow night. Let's check it out. We're all excited about it.
Very excited to have it premiere, and everybody's going to love it. I know it's really good. It's really good. You should be so proud.
I will say, 2020 has a lot of personal dark spots, global dark spots. Is that, I guess, I don't even know. A lot. It has a lot. And you truly, oh God, you and your family are also my, like my bright spot of the.
Oh, busy. We feel the same. We truly
of that
do.
Year. Like I was so grateful for your friendship, and
ditto.
So happy to spend so much time with you together.
We're still here for it, and we will be, because now you're one of us. You moved here. You're a New Yorker.
Well, I love you. I'm going to let you go.
I love you too. Thank you for chatting today, guys. And it was so good to see you, Caissie.
So nice to see you, Gail.
Soon. We will celebrate so many things.
We will.
A pleasure, Caissie. It really was.
My friend Justin Long has a podcast. It's called Life is Short with Justin Long. And in it, Justin talks with celebrities and musicians and actors and artists about how they get the most out of life. Have I been asked to be a guest on this podcast? I have. Has the scheduling worked out yet? It has not. But I guarantee you it will happen, because I love Justin so much, and I love Life is Short with Justin Long. In his candid interview style, he knows just what to ask to pull out unexpected stories from his guests' lives. I mean, some of the stories you wouldn't expect, like when John Bon Jovi shared that his mom wanted to crawl under the seats after his performance in a local talent show because he was so bad. Or when Alison Brie shared the unfortunate peeing incident that happened on the set of Mad Men. But don't worry, he also asks hard-hitting questions like, if you could have one snack food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Nachos. Obviously, Justin. Come on. All right, listen, I love listening to it because it feels like I'm hanging out with my friend. He's kind of just a compelling and interesting and unique human, and he always has been. And I think you'd really enjoy Life is Short with Justin Long. So I think you should check it out. Listen to the latest episodes of Life is Short with Justin Long on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or you can listen ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app. Wondery, feel the story. Listen, maybe you've been doing too much online shopping. I relate. And maybe looking at your credit card statement every month is something that is not fun for you. Listen, I don't blame you, but here's the deal. Upstart can lift that weight off your shoulders so that you can finally feel the relief of being free of credit card debt. I mean, if you're carrying a credit card balance month after month, you're not the only one, I promise you. So Upstart is a fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan, all online. Whether it's credit cards or consolidating high interest debt or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple fixed monthly payment. Unlike other lenders, Upstart actually looks at more than just your credit score. It looks at things like your income and your employment history, and that means that they can offer you smarter rates with trusted partners. So 5-minute online rate check. You can see your rate upfront for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. And you can receive funds as fast as one business day after they accept your loan. So find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/best. That's upstart.com/best. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know that we sent you. It's important. You know we need credit. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/best. Gail Simmons, true delight. I get to see her so soon. I'm going to see her. And I'm actually really excited to watch that show. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, you'll like it.
I'm a fan of all of the chefing shows. The chefing shows.
All the iterations of Top Chef.
All the iterations of Top Chefs. Listen, we talked so much today. We didn't talk about anything happening in the world, Caissie. I mean, I don't know. Should we? Do you have anything that you feel like you should talk about? You want to talk about?
No, I mean, I was just like annoyed that stuff that you said on another podcast got in all the magazines, but whatever. It was important.
Which
shit.
one? What? It was what?
You talked about, like you talked about Franco on another podcast, and it was like got in all the papers, and I don't even think you said anything really, it wasn't
well, you want to know what happened.
What?
Because it's actually really fucking interesting. So I've been doing a bunch of podcasts, and Chris, like, this is the thing that's where you're like, yeah, you make these decisions in life, right? Like, you're like, I don't really want to put myself out there in certain ways. It's too much, and I don't love it. I don't love the way it makes me feel. I had like essentially quit. Chris, I'm going to tell you about me for a second. Just so you can get,
I'm all ears.
So you can know. Okay. So I had essentially decided I didn't really want to act anymore, be an actor on TV. I was a little bit having kind of like a similar vibe to you. Also, like, I just didn't love the things that were out there. And I don't love the industry itself. And like being a part of it means a lot of times having to deal with things that like I'm not okay with. And so if I'm going to continue to live my life in the way that I want to live it, like, and be, you know, and raise my kids to be a certain type of way, it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing partaking in this system that sucks? Then Tina Fey called me, and I love her, and we're friends, and I think she's fantastic, and I love the stuff she does. And she had this show, and I was just like, well, I got to do this fucking show. The show's amazing. And it was 2020, and who knows? So I'm doing the show. And now here we are. We have this podcast. I have this show that's going to be picked up for a second season. And, you know, the network has certain asks, you know, especially around now it's like FYC, everything for your consideration, like Emmy shit. Like, have you had to do that stuff for your special? Have you done any for your consideration stuff for your special?
No, it didn't really get pushed for that. And
it's weird, right?
Yeah, but it was also, it was a moment when I was like, I did this thing that was like super critically praised, and it was on HBO, and it had a social point. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to be in the club. I'm never going to get the invite into the club. Like, that was the thing I made that would have had chatter about that. And I'm not going to be in the club, and that's fine. That's fine.
I mean, it's all so weird. It's all such a machine. And it's all so part of a system, you know what I mean? And so, but also now that I have agreed to be a part of the show, and I love the job, love it. And it's so creative. It's creatively and personally like the most fun acting job I've ever had in my life. So then you want to be a good team player, and you're like, I'm going to do the stuff that is asked of me, right? And so there were some like specific to entertainment podcasts that came through, like, not like if you were to reach out and ask me to do your podcast, like just, you know, through my publicist, through the publicity of the machine of the show and all that stuff. And it's always good, now that I have a podcast, I know it's always good to do other people's podcasts, you know. And so I was doing like a bunch of the like FYC podcasts. And that one with the guy was like, where the Franco stuff got brought up, you know, I thought that the interview was going well. Like, he seemed to know what he was talking. Oh, you know, Chris. A lot of times you do these things and I'm like, okay, buddy. But, you know, he seemed to like kind of have a handle on what he was talking to me about. And I was like, okay, I can deal with this. And then out of nowhere, he was like, yeah, so I was really surprised that Seth Rogen said he would never work with James Franco again, weren't you? And it's like, I'm fucking smart enough for the clickbait of it all, and I get it. And I was like, I mean, I really don't have anything to say about it. But at the same time, I was in the process of a day of like doing fucking interviews where you're like soldiering through it. And so I just sort of was like fumbly a little bit at first. I don't know, like maybe trying to answer it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And then I was like, I don't know. I was like, whatever. I'm like, you know what? Can we not do this? You seem like a chill bro. Like, can you just cut that out? I don't really want to make the whole clickbait of this thing be about James Franco when that literally happened to me in my book, when my book came out, and I was bummed as fuck about it because I had like written this whole book about what it has been like for what my experience as a woman in this world at this time, and then in the entertainment industry was, what my experience was. And like 90% of the headlines in that 1 week were all about a man.
Yeah.
You know, who I wrote about for like one paragraph. And it was just such a bummer to me. So while I'm talking to the guy, so I haven't listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't listen to podcasts. But in the interview, I sort of stopped and I was like, could we not can you not do that? Like, can we just take that? Will you just take that out for me? Because like, I just am not, I don't know. I sounded like an idiot. I was not prepared for that at all. I felt like this wasn't what that was about. And I just know that it's going to be the clickbaity thing. And I just don't want that to be it. And he was like, oh, yeah. I mean, oh, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, we don't really edit the podcast. And I was like, yeah, but you can. And I'm just asking you to, because that was like a little bit off topic of what we were going to be talking about. Anyway, I guess he didn't edit it out. I didn't see that shit.
Oh my God, it got picked up by all of these things. And I was so irritated because it's like what we talk about all the time, that like, it was like a clickbaity thing. And it was like Busy Phillips reacts to Seth Rogen's not going to work with James Franco anymore. She said on a podcast, and it's like all these headlines. And then it goes to the quote, and like your quote is like, this guy asked you this question and you said like, I mean, it's interesting. Like that's basically what you said. And it's like, well, I guess it's good. But then I'm like, you know, we're doing this podcast every week and you're saying fascinating things every week.
But that guy serviced that out. That's the fucking, that's the bummer.
Yeah,
that guy fucking serviced that quote out.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's why it's such a fucking bullshit. Everybody listening, just so you know how this shit works. That podcast host sent that clip to every publication he had any, like, and his publicist or whatever. And like, that's how that shit gets disseminated out to all of the things. And then the truth is, once you get one bite, like, then you're good, because other people will pick it up if it's something that's getting traction.
And then it spreads and spreads.
And it spreads and spreads. But it's just bullshit. It's fucking bullshit.
That
makes me so grossed out.
I did an interview once that was about like the craft of joke writing, and all about like pick a joke of yours that you analyze and you explain to them, okay, here was what earlier drafts were like, and here's how you put it together, and here's some, I was aiming for this punchline, but I found this along the way, you know, just like real nerdy stuff. And then at the tail end of the interview, it was when Louis C.K. had first come back, and they were like, oh, it must be kind of, you perform at the Cellar, it's been kind of weird there lately, huh, with all the Louis stuff. I was like, yeah, like, they're like, what do you think about it? I was like, it's really tough to know what to think about it. And, you know, I wish that, you know, I feel like probably he could be owning it harder or saying more about it. And it would mean that the rest of the comics who perform there don't have to feel like they're taking responsibility for anything he did, which I think is a pretty basic thing to say.
Yeah.
And that was I believe the last or next to last question in a very long interview. And the headline they put on it was Chris Gethard talks about what it's like at the Comedy Cellar now that Louis C.K. is back.
Of course.
And I was like, you can ask the question and I can answer it. But I actually emailed them. I was like, I emailed because the guy who wrote it I've known for years. And I was like, this headline's not fucking cool, man. He's like, I don't pick the headlines and you're right. Let me talk to them. And they changed it. But I was like, if you said to me, if you reached out and said, we want to interview you about what it's like at the Cellar now that Louis is back, I would have probably said, I don't think my opinion is the one that's highest priority right now. I'm not sure what I feel about it. You know, like there's probably other people of higher stature or who aren't white dudes with glasses comics who you want to be talking to instead, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like there's a million reasons, or I might have said, fuck yeah, let's get in the ring and I'll speak to it. But don't make me think you're talking to me about my craftsmanship as a creative person so you can do... Like that actually felt very hurtful to me because I was like,
yeah,
did you ever give a fuck about the thing that you told me you were excited about this thing and I was excited to talk about this joke. Were you ever excited about it or not? So not that I'm like a defender of Louis in any way, but I was like, ooh, I don't like the deceptive side of this. I don't like being manipulated.
You don't want to get pulled into... No one wants to get pulled into like essentially a trap for clicks, a clickbait trap, which is that is.
These are all subjects that if you want to speak on them, you want to be incredibly thoughtful about what you're about to say. And you should be given a moment to think about it and to say whether or not you want to speak on them. And
also,
you know,
by the way, yes, that's what my point too, is like, I was doing a fucking podcast that's like, for your consideration, Girls 5 Eva. Like, dude, know your fucking time and place. You know what I mean? Like, it's just bullshit. Like, it's just bullshit to, I don't know, pull a fast one on people. That being said, it does make me feel like we need to come up with a better way of selling this show.
This podcast?
Yeah, this podcast. I feel like it's maybe would be to our benefit if we just thought about, like, when we post about it, we should just say that episode in which Chris Gethard talks about Louis C.K., Busy Phillips talks about James Franco.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And Caissie St.Onge dishes a story about David Letterman that she's never told publicly before. Boom.
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 And then they all get to this part and they realize they've finally been the ones master manipulated. The tables have turned.
Yes. I'm into it. I'm down if you all are.
I guess we finally figured it out.
I do think that that's like such a. What if we tried it? What if we try? Chris, we'll leave you out of you and Louis
go
CK,
for broke.
But I just feel like what if we tried it? Gail breaks her silence about Tom Colicchio's hats. Busy talks about James Franco. Yeah, she goes there. I mean, it's worth Caissie tells a shocking story of Dave Letterman raging out at a fan.
At Duran Duran.
And Duran Duran.
If we're going to be victims of clickbait, it might as well be for victims and the
beneficiaries.
Yes.
And Chris Gethard tries yoga.
Chris Gethard single-handedly ended a small Sri Lankan business. And also has thoughts on Louis C.K. I don't know, guys. I'm down. I'm open to it.
That sounded exciting. I would listen to that podcast.
Me too. And then they get here and they're like, fucking 3 hours and I don't even get a goddamn... You kidding me?
Chris, tell everyone where they can see your special. This special is really good, by the way. It's really, really funny.
It is actually very special.
Yeah.
It's a special.
It's literally
I think it's a very special.
It's literally special. It's like part documentary, part comedy special. It's very DIY punk rock comedy special called Half of My Life.
It's on Amazon and Vimeo and all the places
Apple.
where you.
I got Apple Plus.
Yeah, you can find it everywhere, and it's cheap, and it ties in. It's actually funny. It ties into a lot of what we're saying because I self-funded the whole thing. We shot it at 10 different venues, and I said, let me just take a bunch of money that I probably shouldn't be spending and do it myself because I just wanted to do something where I was like pretty certain that I stood by it in every way, and it wasn't messed up with all the notes and all the stuff we get tangled up in as entertainers, and I just tried to make something with a lot of heart that's like, here's what it's like to do small venues all over the country and to be like, yeah, I used to host a talk show and I had an HBO special, but I still rent a car in Buffalo and sit in traffic trying to get to the show in Detroit. And that's just kind of the reality of being a touring artist. And here's like, there's footage with alligators and a show in Baltimore where a girl gets up on stage unexpectedly and wrestles me and just sort of a lot of jokes and chaos, and then also a lot of thoughts about what it's like to sort of turn 40 and be a dad and wonder if you should still be doing all these things out on the road. So I think people might like it. I've been pretty psyched with how the response has been.
I really enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed your comedy. I think, I just think you're great. I think you've been super generous with your audience about the struggles you've had. And also you've been super generous with, I know, people sort of giving them feedback on their struggles in a way that I just think it's really generous and kind of moving to watch. And so that, like, besides being really funny, that's why I'm a fan of yours. So it makes me so happy that you're just enjoying success on your own terms and putting good stuff out into the world. And this is no exception.
That's super, super nice of you. Thank you.
I agree with everything Caissie said.
Well, thank you too.
But listen, I have a question that I realized I didn't get to ask you earlier in this show that I kind of have always wanted to know about a stand-up at your level and of your creativity, because I feel like you do have such a unique voice. And this is the question that I have. Are you a fan of other stand-ups? And do you watch other people's specials, or are you just like, I'm not looking?
I am, and I do, but very selectively. Doing a ton of shows in a live setting, I do. I just always have loved, like I think when you are an entertainer, and I think stand-ups in a particular way, like you definitely feel like an oddball. Like you don't wind up doing it because you feel like you really have a firm footing in society. So I've always loved the sense of community, and I will say, I'm the past couple of years I've actually been getting just progressively more and more exasperated is the word I'm looking for. It's become very fragmented and all this like PC, and there's too much, cancel culture is evil, and then other people on the other end, where I go, it's very exasperating, but at the end of the day, I love watching live comedy. I'll seek out specials from friends or ones that I hear are interesting. Like right now, I'm actually Rory Scovel, just I think 2 days ago, put out a special that's part
Did he?
documentary.
I love Rory.
He did 6 fully improvised shows, and it's kind of like a documentary showing the anxiety going into just completely improvising stand-up. And I'm watching that right now. And then,
oh my God, that's insane.
There's I always love finding comics. Like I think Roy Wood Jr., who's on The Daily Show, is going to be, he should already be
Roy.
an absolute household name. Like he should be at the Chappelle level of everyone should be paying attention to him stuff. And then smaller people too. Like there's a guy named Monroe Martin who I think is doing brilliant stuff. Chloe Hilliard. There's a kid named Alex English in New York who is doing tons of shows. He's just so good. Just so good. So there's a lot of people out there who I watch and I go, oh, this is why I still love doing it, because I get to see people who are doing cool stuff, and I just find it very, very motivating, very inspiring. I wonder, I have a lot of jokes about lawn care right now, but maybe at some point I'll have something important to say again and I'll get to say it. Who knows? Who knows?
But lawn care is important.
Hey,
getting rid of that bamboo we're all rooting for you.
Someone's got to represent the former hip Brooklyn artist. So I'm happy to be the guy who used to be like the king of Greenpoint comedy, who now worries a lot about broadleaf weed care.
I mean, have you thought about writing your next book about this experience, this current pivot in your life?
I've definitely thought about at least doing a stand-up special called I Used to Be Cool, Now I'm a Suburban Dad. Sometimes I get my head about it, but at the end of the day, I think it's okay. I think that's the title of something. I think that's the title. I don't know if that's a book or a special or what, but it's something.
Yeah, that's definitely something. That is something. I mean, that's why like the song Losing My Edge is so fucking brilliant, and I still like get down to it. I've been getting down to it since I was like 22 before I really understood what losing your edge really is. Because now I know.
It's been a weird couple years since my TV show got canceled. It was like, I used to be the cool kid, and now I'm not. And I feel like the pandemic's given me a lot of time to just kind of do some soul searching and go like, and that's great too. And that means like you hung on, and like that means that like I don't have a cool like my old special was all about suicide attempts. It's like, it's probably a really good thing that I don't have anything that edgy anymore, because it means I didn't fucking kill myself. Like that's a good thing. It's a good thing that I have a lot of jokes about how much I like my weed whacker. Like that's a good thing. It means I'm alive to tell that joke now. It's good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm
here,
with you.
Survivor. Not being cool means you survived being cool.
I'm like alive with a bad hairline and bags under my eyes because my kid never stops moving. Great. Perfect. Happy about it.
That's relatable to me.
Your hairline's great. Who are you kidding?
I have to tell you something though. You know, I just turned 42 last week. I do think my hair won't grow long anymore, Caissie.
Oh, interesting.
It like stops. right above my boobs. And all I ever want is mermaid hair, where you cover your nipples with your hair. And also the nipples are, maybe it's also maybe my hair.
The
maybe
nipples
it's not
are
my hair, maybe it's my
lower.
nipples are lower. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Of course.
Sorry you had to have that epiphany on a podcast.
Fucking bummer for
Talk
me.
about clickbait headlines.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, write it down. Caissie, write it the fuck down. This is what I'm telling you. From now on, when we do this fucking podcast, we are making a list of all of the possible clickbait headlines. It doesn't matter if it's like true, just whatever clickbait headline you can think of. And that is all we're going to post from now on when we post the show on Instagram, okay?
Okay.
Just bullet points of clickbait that's probably bullshit. But in the case that it might not be, aren't you going to want to listen to the whole fucking thing? You are.
Yeah. And then we'll just tag People Magazine or whatever and be like, just to make sure they saw it.
It is funny though. Wait, real fast. I just want to say this because I loved that Bo Burnham special because I love musical shit too, obvi.
Yeah.
But like when it gets dark at the end, I a little bit was like, I mean, dude, I know you have like a long-term girlfriend and she's living inside at like the nice house and she directed Hustlers. Like, you're not alone. You know what I mean? Not that like he can't struggle, but I'm just saying. Did you watch it, Chris?
Listen, I have great love for Bo, but you know what I do think is really interesting?
Love it.
Because there is a whole thing too of like, and my special got backlash like this too from some comedians and comedy fans of like, it goes dark and how real is that? But the one thing that always astounds me, and I got to say too, is like someone tagged me in a tweet that I initially, some fan was like, "That's leave Gethard out of it." And I was like, no, it's a fair point where they were like, how come when guys like Gethard and Bo Burnham, and I think they said Mike Birbiglia put out stuff that's like dark and thoughtful, they don't get like endless think pieces shitting on them like Hannah Gadsby did for it? And I was like, and
totally.
somebody was like, leave Gethard out of it. I was like, no, that's pretty true. Like, everybody's going to have their opinions on all these things, but I do not deny that Hannah, who I don't know, took a lot more flack for doing something that I've done, that Bo's done, that like it's really weird.
And also I've noticed that when women are, very feminine, hetero presenting women comedians do go have that sort of dark humor, people often give it the rap of being like very attention seeking. You have daddy issues, and it's like, yeah, of course it's fucking attention seeking. I'm a fucking comedian. Like that's the point of
It's the name of the game, guys.
That's the point of being a comedian. And
I'm
people
asking you to point a light at me and give me an amplification device. Yes, I want
literally attention seeking. People do it on Twitter too. It's on a smaller scale when you'll see like guys get dark in a funny way and people are like, this is brilliant, and then women get dark and people are like, did you get that attention you ordered? And I'm like,
guys,
oh Lord.
I mean, look no further than all of the entertainment that we consume, and like having written a pilot, like having been a part of shows in development, like the amount of times when it's like, I just feel like she's not likable enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, was Walter White likable? Like what? Like we're entering into the story like we don't know her journey, so we need more. We need to like her more in the beginning. And it's like, I mean, was House likable? I don't feel like that was like we knew House's backstory when he was just a dick. Like it's always the thing.
And then knowing that, like, knowing what you know when you get to your late 40s, guess what? You're never going to like her. That's, you know what I mean? You can make the request. You can make the request that she be more likable. But if she gets too likable, that's going to cause you to not like her. And so, I know that seems like a reasonable request, but she could be too likable, not likable enough. And just, it's been Chris, I'm sorry that you have to listen to us this could be a whole other 3-hour podcast that you could return for.
I just hope you're getting the attention you're looking for right now.
Thank you. Finally. Thank you.
He sees through it all. He sees it for what it is. And you know what? Next time we're on a train together, I'm going to fucking scream.
Tear me a third one, because you may have torn me a second one 15 or 16 years ago. So,
you guys, I now it is what happened, regardless of what actually did. Now it is officially what happened.
I have this instinct that it may, in fact, have been what happened. So I'm willing to commit to it if you are.
Me too. I'm committing to it. Wow. Add it to the clickbait.
Yep.
Okay.
It's on the
All
list.
right. Well, Chris, you're a real delight and a talent and a lovely human and a dad and a lawn maintenance expert.
Thank you so much for saying the last one. It's the one that's most important to me right now. So thank you.
I know. I can tell. I can tell when you've literally brought it up 5 times. It obviously is something that is you feel very deeply about in this moment in your life. And I am here for it because it's all about seasons, guys. And you never know where you're going to end up. And I bet if you had gone back in time and shown career suicide like this right now, this moment, and the bamboo and the lawn care, I bet he would have been like, what? What would he have said?
I actually think about it a lot. And I sit there, I feel like if you had shown me when I was 19, 20, 21 years old and literally praying for death, if you showed me where I was at right now, I would have fallen down on my knees and cried tears of joy. I feel like 13-year-old me would have been like, what a lame fuck. But then the one in between would have been like, oh, thank God you got to the other side of this nonsense. So I try to remember that.
I love
make
that.
Me cry.
I know. I actually really love that. It's the one magical invention I wish we could have. My one magical invention, Chris, that I wish we could have is I wish there was some sort of time machine photo booth that if shit was hard, if things were not going well for you or whatever, or you were just in a moment, you could go in and it would show you one snapshot from the future that's for real gonna happen. And you don't get to decide when or where or how or whatever. It just comes out and you just know that everything's going to be okay. Anyway, it'll be amazing. Can someone invent that, please?
We'll put that in the list with the clickbait. All right,
really
Chris, we should let you go because you have lawn care and child care to do.
Indeed.
Yeah.
This was
Thank
a joy.
you.
I thank you
so
for having
much.
me. It was really a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, you.
Chris.
And everybody at home, thanks for hanging out with us for so long. We love you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Oh, wait, we love you.
We love you.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing my best.
Oh, no.